Hello. And we are live with the season 5 premiere of The Sausage Factory. Welcome. I'm your moderator, Pizzal. As you know, The Sausage Factory is just a bunch of guys sitting around talking about movies. And we have got
movies, right?
Exactly. And we have got an explosive season 5 premiere for you guys tonight as we tackle the question of which series is better, Friday the 13th versus A Nightmare on Elm Street. Joining me tonight, I have got the enigmatic X Factor, Orc. What's going on, Orc?
What's up, motherfuckers? Vote Gary Johnson. Yeah, buddy. All right. Sorry, I'm done.
Yeah, the only time two assholes would make you want to vote for a Johnson.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's true. It's true. Also with me tonight is Rambo. Raph, what's going on, Rambo?
Doing well. I don't support Orc. Orc needs to be fired.
Wait, did Orc get fired? I'm not even sure.
He's
I actually
unfireable.
when I logged into the Sausage Factory account for the first time in months, there were literally 100 notifications. 99% of them were, did Orc get fired and is Cole gay?
No.
That was 99% of them. So
I kind of think that might be the same person, but
who
knows?
I think so.
Like 50 different accounts, so probably not.
That brought back a lot of memories. So, also with me tonight is Jay the Stingray. What's going on, Stingray?
What's happening, guys? Ready to talk shit about that bitch ass Mark Jason?
Oh man!
Mark ass trick.
Shots fired already.
Don't give me the extra point before it starts, but I like the enthusiasm.
Hey, Lord have mercy. Also with me tonight is, of course, the incomparable Cole. What's going on, Cole?
Oh, that's right. I'm back again for another season. The off-putting know-it-all is still here. I know. I know you were all waiting, but it didn't work out. And look, I'm even wearing this stupid shirt for you guys just because I like you guys.
And
I told them not to send it to me, and they sent it to me. I said I wouldn't wear it, and I didn't wear it, but I thought, season premiere, I should do something nice.
And to order your very own stupid shirt like that, follow the link in the description or go to fastcustomshirts.com. Also with me tonight as well, braving the season 5 premiere from the eye of Hurricane Matthew, B movie Mike. What's going on, Mike?
What's up, fellas? About to get a real big blowjob tonight. And I also get to listen to some of the cast defend a child molester for most of the night, so that's going to be interesting.
They have rights.
Well, Mike, big thanks for being here tonight. I know the storm is right on you guys there in Florida. I know a lot of people have had to evacuate. So for all of our Floridian viewers out there, Godspeed, stay safe, and hopefully the storm will see.
I forget the name of it, but there's a bar that's still open in Daytona Beach, and they're having a hurricane party. So, if you're going to ride it out, there you go.
They're the ones that die when this kind of shit happens.
But I guess they die doing what they love.
They die doing what
They
they
either
love,
have
exactly.
some rad Snapchats or they fucking die. That's it.
Give me NASCAR. Give me death.
It's really numb when it happens, though.
It's true. It's true. And Cameron just joined us. How are you doing, Cameron?
Doing well as anyone can after working 12 hours, walking in the door and just getting on the internet.
Wow. And I'm just going to go ahead and say that this show will probably be 12 hours. So,
Okay.
You're in for it. You are in for it, man. And making his very first appearance on the Sausage Factory, a little bit of a tryout. It's totally up to Orc whether or not he becomes a Mi Familia. It's his fate is in Orc's hands for this little tryout. AKA Easy E. How are you doing, man?
Oh wait, anybody hear that?
No. We can't hear you, Eric.
And that's a debut.
That's
That doesn't bode well.
Oh,
Is that better?
There it is.
Perfect.
Damn you, Google Hangouts.
Oh, I just thought it was Raiho shaved his beard, but that's somebody new. Okay.
And welcome to the show, Easy E. It's good to have you. How
Thank you.
are you?
I am super psyched. I've been following you guys for years. Cameron's been catching me up on his exploits with you guys. And this is like the perfect one, too, because the Friday the 13th stuff, the Nightmare stuff, is all great.
And speaking of Raiho,
somebody new.
yeah, it's always good to have some new blood.
I mean, look what we got here. We got Jay with a big beard. We got Orc wearing a hat. That's refreshing. I mean, it's good to inject something new.
Yes.
New blood like Tina.
Exactly.
There you go. Psychic powers.
Only one series will win tonight.
We're going to mix it up and add a male Caucasian to the group.
It's about time their side was heard.
Yeah, it's about time.
Sausage Factory so white.
Yeah. Well, and speaking
Maybe
of,
somebody's straight. Who knows?
Speaking of Raiho, we want to send congratulations out there to Raiho. He is now a father for the second time. So congratulations to
Both been
Raiho.
busy.
Now he can race them, I guess. Once, the second one can walk.
Yeah. The generation 2 of the Sausage Factory is coming right along. So
He will keep him in your thoughts and prayers. He will need it.
Oh, good. More male Caucasians on the way, yeah.
For some reason, he has something against sleeping. I don't know.
well, how have you guys been? How was your summer? We've not hung out in quite a while. Hope you guys all had a good summer.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Some decent movies. Not real great, but
Yeah,
decent.
not a great summer for movies. That's why we didn't really have a summer movie recap show, because what were we going to talk about?
It was rather shitty.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't even think of any.
Well, the good
It was
news
that
is that
good. It was that good.
the good news is the director's cut of Ghostbusters hits Blu-ray next week. So
Thank God.
Oh boy.
I saw the non-director's cut. I just watched it on the internet.
That's the best way to watch it.
Thank God.
Well, yeah, I wasn't gonna.
Torrent that shit like it's going out of style.
Yep.
If you
Oh, it's
No,
already out of
don't,
style.
because it'll fucking take up valuable hard drive space. Fuck that shit. No. Waste.
if you enjoy pussy farts, it's your movie. So,
I think that isn't
They don't
that
make it wait either.
I'm kind
I
of
think the quote
intrigued.
was on the poster. So
pussy farts approved.
yeah, exactly.
Right on the poster.
Well, let
Fucking
me
shit.
explain what we're doing tonight, because we've got a huge show scheduled for tonight. As I said in the opening, we are debating Friday the 13th versus A Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, for all you guys out there who are watching, you can sort of give us select who you prefer by letting us know, live tweeting at us at TSF Nation during the show. Also, head over to the website, thesausagefactoryshow.com, go into the live chat, join us in there. There's a poll set up there where during the debate, you guys vote as to who you think is winning this debate. So, and let us know in the live chat on the website by tweeting at us, by leaving comments in the comment section of the video. And yeah, so that's how we're going to do it.
for instance, I was just gonna say, yeah, don't vote for your favorite series. Like if Orc makes a couple good points, Go with him.
Hold on, viewers. Don't let Cameron intimidate you into liking and not liking.
That's a pretty interesting hypothetical that you just threw out there. We're making that's a good point.
Well, and as a
Then you
matter
double
of
down. It
fact,
wasn't even just one good point.
Hashtag go to.
A couple.
as a matter of fact, and let me pull up the
Yeah, I
poll.
want you to penalize him if he uses Gosu at any point.
We had a poll on the website, a pre-debate poll, in which we asked you guys out there in Sausage Factory Nation, which series do you prefer? And with 69% of the votes, overwhelmingly, Sausage Factory Nation prefers Friday the 13th
There you
over
go.
A Nightmare on Elm
People have
Street.
spoken. End of show.
However,
However, half of them were you guys. So
We don't talk about my bot accounts, Jay.
It's rigged. It's rigged. I heard that
However-
somewhere this week about elections.
Donald Trump
being
is right.
rigged.
It's a rigged
Yeah,
system.
it's rigged.
However, during the show, during the debate, if you think the Nightmare on Elm Street side is winning, vote Nightmare on Elm Street. You can vote once per hour. And at the end of the show, we will see if this percentage has changed in any way, or maybe the Friday the 13th side will just win you right over and make it 100%, or maybe it'll be a little bit closer. We'll see. It's up to you guys out there in Sausage Factory Nation. Let me go ahead.
Oh, good. Sorry. I was just going to say, introduce the teams. Who's on my team?
Well, that's where I was going.
Awesome.
We have split the teams up. On the Nightmare on Elm Street side, we have, with team leader Cameron, Cole, Rambo, and Jay the Stingray. On the Friday the 13th side of the coin, we have got team leader B Movie Mike, the enigmatic X Factor Orc,
Striking a pencil pose.
and Easy E.
Here we go.
3 against 4? Wow.
We are a little lopsided,
It's all
however,
right. We don't need the help.
Friday, according to Sausage Factory Nation, you do not, as 69% of Sausage Factory Nation prefers Friday the 13th to A Nightmare on Elm Street. So the Nightmare on Elm Street side actually needs a little more help. And I will act as the moderator to make sure that this is a fair and balanced
So nothing below the belt, huh, Piz?
debate.
Finally, we see a good moderator.
Maybe one or two things below the belt. We'll just see.
Unless your Cole is gay. Oh!
Well, let's go ahead without further ado, because this is going to be an epic episode. Let's go ahead. Let's dive right into the debate here. The very first criteria up for debate, number one.
Hang on. Are you going to pick 2 people to go against each other, or is it just a free-for-all?
No. I'm going to pose the question to one side. Let them debate. Well, actually, as a matter of fact, I want to hear an opening statement from each side.
Okay.
And Cameron, since you're the Nightmare on Elm Street team leader, let's go ahead. Opening statement from the Nightmare on Elm Street contingent. Go ahead.
A Nightmare on Elm Street is the better series out of between the two. There's just no contest. Friday the 13th didn't even know what it was when it began. It began with Jason's mom as the killer. It wasn't until the sequels that they decided to, why don't we try this? And then when they tried it, they created him out of the mold of The Town That Dreaded Sundown and The Elephant Man. It took him 3 films before he even got the hockey mask, and even then it was an afterthought, and they went, oh my God, that's a brilliant thing. Nightmare on Elm Street began right at the top, Freddy hunting Tina down. The series knew what it was right from the start. Yes, it wasn't meant to be a series, but it knew exactly what it was from the very beginning. And anybody else want to chime in on my team?
Webster's Dictionary defines
Come on now. He worked hard for this, I'm sure.
Oh, totally off the cuff, man.
No, go right ahead. Anybody else on the Nightmare on Elm Street side want to
Well,
chime
I'm
in?
gonna say
Go right
that.
ahead.
Sure. Gentlemen and orc. What Cameron says is true. It's clearly the superior series, and the main word I have to come up with to use that is derivative, and that is the adjective I would have to attach to our sad opponent, Friday the 13th, which is really just a hollow echo of the superior series that came before it, Halloween. Pretty much everything that it succeeded in, it owes to the success of Halloween beforehand, and it never really broke any new ground as it went forward. It might have done some things people liked a little better than Halloween, but it had nothing to do with, say, being more original or anything. Whereas original is the adjective we would adhere to A Nightmare on Elm Street, where we have a killer that is maybe pieces of other killers we've seen throughout fiction, but when you put them all together, something totally unique in that we've got Freddy Krueger. Don't want to, since this is just the intro, not to get too far into it, but such an iconic character that he could only really be portrayed correctly by one actor, whereas pretty much anybody with the right build and able to do a slow walk was fit to play Jason Voorhees. Whereas, so really, we've got a series with a true character versus a series with, a piece of not the background, but a piece of scenery moving around almost, or a prop. We'll say a prop.
And whereas
Set piece.
and whereas Nightmare on Elm Street until the remake happened, Robert Englund, like Cole said, played the character all the way through. Even when they recasted Jason in Freddy versus Jason, they wanted to give Jason more sensitive eyes. So they recast him with another actor, but they kept Robert Englund because only Freddy Krueger, only he can play that character. And he did for 15 years.
Okay, hold on. Let me admonish the crowd. Keep it down. We agreed that we would keep it down before the debate.
No applause or laughing.
Rabble.
Let's be respectful. Okay, I think we've heard that was a good opening argument from the Nightmare on Elm Street side. Very nice. Now let me. Okay, go ahead, Rambo. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll get my Donald Trump face on or something. Apparently, Elm Street films are better because people actually wanted to see them in the fucking theaters, so they made more money.
Boom.
And also, Jason's such a boring fucking character that 50 fucking people had to play him because they're so bored of him, they fell asleep while playing him. But at least Robert Englund, he knew that the character was so good, so he kept playing him. But that's how boring of a fucking character Jason Voorhees is. And the movies are fucking boring because no one went to see him in the theater. People actually went to see him in the theater, see Nightmare on Elm Street. That's why it's better because, hey, money talks and bullshit walks.
Rambo, I just want to say I love the enthusiasm.
Oh, hell no.
I love the enthusiasm.
Hell no.
Mixing in
Okay.
Halloween 4 quotes. This is a Friday the 13th and Nightmare debate.
Okay, let's go. Okay, let's turn the tables. Okay, Friday the 13th contingent led by B Movie Mike. Go ahead and make your opening
Well,
argument.
talk about an inferiority complex. Holy shit. If it wasn't for Friday the 13th, there wouldn't have been a Halloween 2 and there wouldn't have been a Nightmare on Elm Street. So you fuckers should kiss their ass for making that movie. Oh my God, Jason, what? Kane Hodder's not the favorite, for no reason. I mean, nobody brings anything to the Jason role. Tom Savini with his makeup effect showed everybody else how to do it. Come on, a 40-year-old child molester? Come on. You guys, you're reaching now. I'm telling you, those movies are only for people that think they're smarter than they really are so they can seem deep. Really.
Yep.
No context.
Shots fired.
Tell us how you really feel.
Shots fired. Mike coming out. Mike may be in the eye of the storm, but Mike is the storm
I
tonight.
am the storm.
It's Hurricane B Movie Mike tonight on the Sausage Factory. Okay, Eric Ork, do you have anything that you want to add?
Oh, yeah. So I listened to our esteemed opponents here, and I'll be honest, other than Rambo, all I heard was what Friday the 13th isn't. I didn't really hear what Nightmare on Elm Street did well, or how it's better, or what its killer did versus other things. It was all about how Friday the 13th is boring, or whatever bullshit they're talking about. But
That's not true. Cole said he was an interesting character.
Then the debate's over, I guess.
Well, that's what I mean.
Freddy was a more interesting character.
Opening
okay,
statement.
Go ahead. Continue, Easy. Continue.
Sure. Whereas, I think B Movie Mike hits it right on the head. Friday the 13th, yes. Let's not like hide behind it, and they even come out and say it. They were aping Halloween to start. But I would make the case that Friday the 13th actually got more interesting as it went on. Whereas, Nightmare on Elm Street stumbled out of the gate with its first sequel right away. Whereas Friday the 13th was only getting better, building to what I consider to be the great final chapter, the fourth film. Exactly. And I think, and I know we're going to get into this in some of the later points, but I mean, I think there's no more iconic symbol of 80s horror than Jason and his hockey mask. It's true. It didn't show up till the third film, and Cameron's right. It was just they wanted to pick something they thought would look good. But however it happened, it doesn't really matter. Like when you show someone a hockey mask, you show some guy in a hockey mask and a machete, they tell you that's Jason Voorhees, and these people might not have even seen Friday the 13th in the first place. I mean, get out of here. Freddy was off being an MTV VJ or whatever the hell he does, while Jason was still chopping up bodies in the woods. Come on.
Okay. Interesting argument. Orc, what do you have to add?
It was a good reason that not falling asleep is associated with Nightmare on Elm Street, because after you see these fucking shitty movies, I probably want to die in my sleep too after believing. Feels good, man. So yeah, Friday the 13th is better. It's got more boobs. It's got better kills. It's got stupider actors for the most part. Like one and done. It's better overall. But I mean, nobody even wanted to make a Nightmare on Elm Street. That's how shitty it was. Wes Craven couldn't even fucking give the script away. Too soon. So
look at these guys, man. They're stewing. I don't have to say shit. I'm just gonna turn my mic off and let you guys go.
Okay. And that's just how it is. Dog life, yo.
Okay. All right. That's amazing opening arguments from both sides. I have to say, I'm feeling the enthusiasm, you guys. Your respective teams, your respective series are absolutely well represented here. This is going to be one hell of a debate. I can't wait to dive in. Based on that opening argument, everyone who's watching, follow the link in the description. Go over to the live chat on the sausagefactoryshow.com. Go down to the poll. Vote for who you think won that opening argument. All right, let's move on. Let's go into the very first criteria that is up for debate, and that is best overall universe / mythology. We're going to talk about the universes that both films are set in, as well as the background of the killers, Freddy and Jason. Nightmare on Elm Street contingent, go ahead. Whoever wants to start may start. Team leader, Cameron, it's up to you.
One thing that I like about the Nightmare on Elm Street series is that there is an opening and an ending. Yes, I mean, they can make a spinoff or a remake, but I love the fact that 1 through 6 ends it, and then 7 is like kind of like a postmodern epilogue. I love the fact that, Orc's saying that, the Friday the 13th films got better. Well, let me tell you something. Nightmare on Elm Street, when I see Dream Warriors, I see Dream Warriors in that movie. When I go to see Dream Child, I see a Dream Child. When I went to go see Jason Takes Manhattan, I got Toronto.
Yeah, I got Vancouver, actually.
Vancouver.
Little Canadian.
Okay,
Are
whatever.
you actually using the Dream Child in your argument? You're using that as a strong point?
Okay. You'll have your turn, Easy.
Okay.
Anyway, the thing is that Friday the 13th can go on and on and on. I remember as a kid, saying, "Mom, are they actually going to go to 13 episodes?" I mean, because they just kept making it up, and then finally, towards the end of the series, the ending of the film, the next film wouldn't even begin where the last one ended, and so it was just kind of like stop, starts. Nightmare on Elm Street for the most part, actually followed a continual story and actually concluded it. And so I think that as a fan of which series should you like, I think that the one that actually is self-contained, I think is more interesting. And Jason, for so many films, it's them in the woods and the cabins, and that's great. However, the idea that Nightmare on Elm Street is realism and surrealism mixed together, and sometimes you don't know whether they're awake or asleep, it kind of just made it more fun and more entertaining and more engaging as an audience.
Unless
So,
it's a remake,
right.
and then you don't care.
Well, we're not counting the remakes in these in the series, I don't think. So
Yes,
anyway,
we are.
anybody? Okay, anybody else? Anybody else on the team want to say?
Sure. We're talking about the world and the mythology. Well, that's just, once again, something that just lends itself much better to The Nightmare on Elm Street and Freddy. Whereas instead of just the mythology of a man in the woods that will kill you, instead we've got, a killer brought back, who the spirit of a killer who haunts your nightmares that you can't get away from. And if we're talking about locations and things like that, after a while the Friday 13th just sort of stops making sense. It's like, okay, people should really just stop going to Crystal Lake. It's kind of stupid at this point. Massacres keep happening and you keep going, but it's a much different thing. And if you flip it around to Elm Street is simply a suburban neighborhood, I think, in California. They can't just close the whole place down because there have been some deaths that they can't even explain, which is another thing. If you want to talk about mythology, there was no real way for anybody to actually prove that Freddy was doing this stuff. We don't have movies ending where the authorities cart off Freddy's body. There's no body for them to get, whereas that happens several times with Jason. He's right there in the morgue, and they're thinking, well, that's all wrapped up. It's not, but still, it takes a little bit of the mystique off when everybody knows exactly who it is. By the time we get up, maybe I'm unfair for going this far, but by the time we get up to Jason Goes to Hell, we have an FBI task force assigned specifically to deal with Voorhees. You can't do that with Freddy. That's impossible. Again, most of the people that even talked about Freddy would be locked away and put on heavy medication because nobody believed them. So I think as far as mythology goes, he's easily a much more mythological figure in the modern world than Jason could ever hope to be.
And at least Springfield, stayed in Illinois through the whole series, as opposed to Friday the 13th, where all of a sudden Camp Crystal Lake became, the port out to Manhattan. I mean, how did a lake go out to an ocean?
Took place in California, so how'd we jump to Illinois?
We can't. Let's not. There's not a criteria for film errors, or we'll be here all night because the continuity of those is all over the place. So we can't go there. I do want to hear.
Oh yeah.
I do want to hear your thoughts on the mythology. Sell me on the Freddy mythology, his background, the story, how he became the dream demon that we all know and love.
It sells itself. I don't really know what there needs to be said about it. We've got a vicious serial killer, a real life person committing murders that everybody knows, who's tried and winds up getting off of the technicality. People take the law into their own hands and burn him down, and that should be the last we ever hear of him. And yet, then a few years later, I guess, an indeterminate amount of time in between, we have these mysterious deaths that can't be explained. And what do we get? We just get whispers and a hushed. In the background, people talking, using the name again, a name that most people had insisted be left out of everybody's vocabulary. Just the idea was the only way you can get away from Freddy is to not acknowledge that he ever existed, so that he passes into myth and into legend, and that. Whereas again, our opponent doesn't really have that pedigree. Sure, yeah, you have some kind of hackneyed sitting around the campfire saying, a kid drowned in Crystal Lake, and they say maybe he came back, but it really doesn't back up as far as a mythology goes, or a haunting presence.
Cole, let me add this. Yes, the idea of these dream demons and Freddy's dead is kind of ridiculous that they came into Freddy and got him going as the dream killer. But I'll take that over Friday the 13th, where they actually brought in the Necronomicon from Evil Dead to rise up a Voorhees. So, yeah.
My thoughts. About that? Where you want to go to Jason Goes to Hell?
Yes. All inclusive. Rambo, you want to add something?
Yeah, on a more serious note, I think, and I know, Elm Street films, the mythology is much richer. It's much more to it. Because you have actual backstory. You have a nun that's raped by 100 maniacs. You have this actual backstory that's fucked up, that's crazy, that's insane, that makes you go, oh shit, that's wild and crazy. And then you have an evil son of a bitch who kills kids. Something Jason could never fucking do. This guy actually kills kids. That's an evil, sadistic killer that is more to be scared of, more to be afraid of a mythology level. He actually has a backstory where he was born, a backstory of how he was raised. Fucking Alice Cooper was his fucking stepfather. That's fucking crazy in itself. And then growing up and being this guy who just preys on kids, and who knows what he did with them. It might be molesting, but never really goes in that. But he does kill them, and that's much more of an evil essence to that character. And growing up and the revenge of being burned alive, and is much more of a storybook to it, the dark fairy tale aspect behind the Freddy Krueger character, while Jason is just a simple, he drowned, he came back, and he came back just fuck it because, well, Freddy, they actually built a type of mythology backstory throughout the sequels that each movie gave a little bit more info to the Freddy character, whether the mom was a nun, the 100 maniacs, the backstory of having revenge for these people who did him wrong, that he did all this stuff and killed kids, and who knows, maybe did more, but all we know is that he killed kids for certain, and then just getting this revenge aspect. It's just, to me, a much richer backstory to the character of Freddy Krueger that we see throughout the movies and sequels.
Okay. Let me turn the table over. Let me turn the table over to the Friday the 13th contingent. Sell us on why you think Friday the 13th has the better overall universe and why you think Jason has the better mythology.
Oh wow, I don't know. I've just heard so much bullshit. My brain is pudding. Oh, my God. Oh man. Well, Friday the 13th story was established in part 2. No matter how shaky you think it might be, the legend of Jason was born in the second film. They kind of made Freddy up as they went along. The whole nun thing didn't come till part 3. So it was vaguely stuck together, but they, let's bring the cast back from the movie and then kill them off right away, and then we got these new people, and Freddy started getting funny. Jason was never funny. The mythology, though, Friday the 13th really didn't rely on that until part 6, when Jason came back as Zombie Jason or whatever. They had like real visceral fear of being alone, in the woods in a cabin, vulnerable. And like this human great white shark type things hunting you down. So I thought the mythology part, like I said, didn't come until 6, but I thought the atmosphere in the, like the first 4 Friday the 13th were much better than the Elm Street series. Anybody else on my team want to take a shot?
All right, here we go.
Go ahead.
All right. Friday the 13th is fucking terrifying. It's a dude in a hockey mask somewhere out in the fucking woods. Nobody knows what's going down. Every movie, you're in for a treat. Okay, A Nightmare on Elm Street, you got fucking... It's Jared in a subway with a few burns on his face fucking killing people. That's not scary. That's not scary. Okay, let's be real.
Well, he sure liked to smack kids around with his foot long, that's for sure. You have something in common.
I didn't say it.
Oh God. Okay.
And, yeah.
Okay. Easy. Go ahead.
So just to add to that, I mean, I think it depends on how you define what we're talking about here, but really, I think that the mythology behind Friday the 13th helped define kind of the horror slasher film genre overall. We've already talked about, yes, they were kind of trying to ape Halloween at the beginning, but when you think back to like the 80s and horror slasher films, there's tropes. And to be honest, some of this stuff I'm actually borrowing from Cole, because I remember in your slasher film episode, you guys talked about some of this. There's the old camp in the woods. There's some terrible thing that happened long ago. There's, a curse that's on this town. The antagonist's motive, whether it be Jason's mom or Jason himself, is, revenge. There's the concept of the oblivious adults. And then I think if you dig into the story itself, listen, I'm actually willing to give to our opponents the fact that kind of that core central idea, the dream demon that, you can't go to sleep, he gets you, that core original idea is probably stronger. But I think that the Friday 13th films, actually, you're watching a legend be born. It starts off with, it's just, some boy in the past, he drowned at Crystal Lake. There's some crazy, creepy dude around town who talks about a death curse. Then you find out it's Jason's mom. But then she dies. And then, the story grows more. Jason didn't actually die. He comes into the picture. He's out for revenge to, avenge his mom's death. And then, his story starts to grow. He eventually is killed. The first three films with him are kind of like, quote unquote, living Jason. But then, we'll set part 5 apart for a second. But even then, Jason's already got this legend. That whole town is defined by what he did there. And then you get zombie Jason. And by that point, it's sort of like the full legend has taken shape. There's this town of Crystal Lake. There's a death curse. There's an unkillable machine out in the forest that will get you if you come out there. And I think just from a more grounded standpoint, I think the Friday 13th films kind of made you hesitant to go into the woods. You think about that's, the sound effect, you see wind blowing through the trees. I think just like overall that series grabs you in a very visceral way. And that's not to say that necessarily being afraid of going to sleep isn't scary. I think it is. I just think, it's the balance between kind of the real world versus that kind of fantasy fear that you have sometimes. So,
and, people could get the best of Freddy. It wasn't like he was this all-powerful guy. If you were smart and you figured out his game, you could best him. But there was no bargaining with Jason. There was no outsmarting him. If he found you, you were dead. And the only reason they killed him off is because they had to end the movie somehow. Otherwise, it would have gone on forever, right?
Yeah.
And you would talk about stumbling, though. Friday 13th, people complain about, Tater sacked Jason and how is it possible that he was alive or dead and why is he the killer and all this stuff. Well, let's talk about Nightmare on Elm Street 2. How they completely threw the mythology from the first film out the fucking window.
Right.
And completely tried to reinvent the character, and we had our first male scream queen.
Well, let me ask you guys.
You're saying that's a bad thing? That's fine.
Another thing.
Another white male.
Hang on a second. I just want to say one thing. Eric, I can choose not to go in the ocean so Jaws won't get me, okay? I can choose not to go in the woods so Jason or Blair Witch won't get me. I don't have a choice about falling asleep.
Well, if you weren't, an Elm Street child, you have nothing to worry about. And how many of those fuckers are there? Jesus.
Well, let me ask you guys.
Okay, no. Better
You're the
Universe,
cousin of an Elm Street child. I'm going to kill you.
we actually killed Johnny Depp. That's something.
Yeah.
We killed Corey Feldman.
We killed Kevin Bacon. Boom.
Johnny Depp is
Wait,
910 pounds.
Let me ask you guys.
Impressed.
Let me ask you guys
Corey
this,
Feldman
and then we
as
can
a little
do some
boy.
point counterpoint.
We got Johnny Depp. He doesn't have to make any more shitty movies. So
At
thanks
least
Freddie
he's
for that.
better than
Universe
that.
is better. But you heard how Corey Feldman as a little kid, bald headed.
Whoa.
I got makeup on my face.
All right, hold on. Let me ask you guys this, and then we can do
Big
some
Little Dream too.
Then we can do some point counterpoint. I'm gonna start docking points. I'm not keeping points, but I'm about to start docking points. Let me ask you guys this, and then I'll let you do some point counterpoint. The mythology for Freddy is just pure evil. He's a character of complete and utter evil. There's no redeeming qualities there whatsoever. The mythology of Jason is that he was a innocent special needs child who died because they weren't paying attention to him. Mm-hmm. Just from those backgrounds alone, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, would you rather have a character, do you feel more for Jason because he was at one point innocent, or do you fear Freddy more because he was just pure evil from the beginning? Let me start with the Nightmare on Elm Street side.
Well, how about you start with their side and give us a joint chance to counterpoint?
We're gonna do some counterpoint right here.
Okay, fine. Go ahead, Ken.
Well, like the Freddy versus Jason film. Okay, whatever you like or don't like about it. One thing is that when you pit the two against each other, Jason is the more sympathetic because of that backstory. And so obviously Freddy, you know, they reminded us of what he was like. It begins with him licking the picture of a little girl. And so they really brought it back that he was a child molester, child killer. And to me, I just felt like, you know, between the two, yes, Jason may be an unstoppable killing machine, but he only worked within a certain, a certain area. Whereas Freddy, I mean, you took him with you wherever you went. And I thought that was just it's much more terrifying. And, you know, you bring up Nightmare on Elm Street too. Yeah, they changed some of the rules for that film. But I got to tell you, I mean, people may disagree, but I think that pool scene is just one hell of a set piece. And just seeing Freddy just gutting people left, right, and center, burning them, and announcing to them all that they're his children. I mean, yeah, people make fun of that movie, but, you know, Wes Craven himself even, you know, borrowed that line again in The New Nightmare. So,
okay.
Anybody else?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. We'll count it.
Okay.
Counterpoint if you want anything that the
Oh,
Friday
okay.
the 13th side had said regarding the mythology of Friday the 13th versus Nightmare on Elm Street.
Like you said, Jason was a sympathetic character. I mean, yeah, he was a brutal killer, but, you know, I still can't get over the fact that Freddy stuck little Freddy in the heinies of children. How is, I mean, you
That's
could almost
all
understand, street justice in that system, although I don't advocate it. That's like, it's one of the
Implied.
worst things you can do to somebody is rape their child and kill them. I
I
mean,
don't think we're defending pedophilia here. That's a hard argument.
Let's be real here. Let's look at
Well,
number two
hey,
for
we're just
both
trying
movies.
to say who's a better
It's
presence
not-
of evil or a more
It's
effective
not like we're
character.
asking who we want to have a beer with. It's about
Who we should be more afraid of and who is more memorable and compelling.
Jason,
That's
of
a good
course,
word.
no argument.
That's a good word. Which
Cheap shot.
which mythology is more compelling? The mythology of pure evil, or the mythology that at one point he was innocent and his evil is almost, well, I mean, both of their evils are kind of revenge based, but at least at one point you had an innocent character in Jason.
the innocent
And
could
Jason
be
was a
interesting, but they do nothing with it throughout the series
Yeah.
of Friday 13th films. While Freddy is evil, but you see various forms of why he's evil. The innocent thing,
Yeah.
it's brought up, but nothing's done with it ever really again until Freddy vs. Jason, where he cries like a bitch because some water hits him in the face. But
I'll admit that throughout fiction, you know, the whole theme or trope of, say, innocence lost, or, you know, a fallen angel, somebody going from good or innocent to evil is the more compelling. But as I said, they didn't really do very much with it, and at least we get to see a kind of a more gutsy sort of thing with somebody like Freddy, because you have evil becoming sort of more evil. It's an evolution, really, is what we get to see. We get to see somebody that was, you know, fairly effective for a while as a certain sort of killer, but even when the law couldn't touch him, eventually mortality and society sort of did. But then he evolved into something that was beyond all those things, the laws and vigilantes and all those things. None of those things could touch him now, and I just think that's a lot more interesting and compelling. And yeah, of course, and Friday the 13th does the same thing, where they have sort of missteps. Both series have sort of missteps or things where they contradict each other. But I would at least argue that in the case of A Nightmare on Elm Street, we get to see Freddy not just sort of come out with the same shtick over and over again. He does sort of have different methods, and sometimes even, I don't want to say exactly different motivation. His motivation is always to spread fear and to kill and collect his souls. But again, as that gets peeled back, we get to see a little more reasons for it. We get to see, you know, how it supposedly works and helps his power grow and stuff. Whereas we just have a lumbering idiot just racking up a body count with no end in sight and no really greater goal in mind, except that he's just sort of a wind-up toy that will keep doing the same thing until he, I don't know, sinks into the mud or something like that. So,
Now,
Well, let me add to this. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just want to throw out this.
We'll turn it over.
not hearing Cameron.
You just went silent.
mute. Something. Still hear nothing, Cameron. Oh.
Might have to throw it over while he works this out.
Okay. While
Google
Cameron's working that
motherfucker.
out, let's go ahead. Let's take it over to the Friday the 13th side. You guys defend your mythology of Jason, and why is it more compelling that he starting at how do you think it's more compelling him starting as a innocent character that became evil? How is that more compelling?
Well,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, he started off as a troubled young man, and he drowned. But when he came back, he grew such things like weed. So that's good. He's all for, Washington, Colorado lifestyle. And then he was a farmer, too. Like we talk about Nightmare on Elm Street 2. What about Friday the 13th Part 2? This guy was growing livestock, maybe eating a few people like Hannibal Lecter style. But who knows? I mean, he's got a potato sack.
Where's the weed coming from? You can't make stuff up.
No, it's from the remake.
That's the remake.
Jesus was a
Can you hear me
farmer.
okay?
I forgot that.
You're back.
Yeah, I hear you.
The
I
dankest.
forgot that.
Jesus
I
was
just-
a
I-
carpenter.
I just wanted to add
Voorhees was
this.
a farmer.
I just wanted to add this one point.
Yep.
Oh, you're out again, I think.
That was weird.
That's weird. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Google being an ass. Yeah, we can't hear anything. Cameron.
All right.
Go ahead.
We'll turn it back over to Cameron when he comes back. Mike, Easy E, go ahead. You've got the floor.
Go ahead, Easy.
I was just going to note that, like, again, like I said in my previous point, like, I think that initial, and that to be fair, like, and that's what, like, Cole and Cameron, I think, are focusing so much on is that original story idea. The dream demon, the man who is evil, who becomes worse. But, like, I think we have to acknowledge the whole universe, okay? There comes a point in the Nightmare films right around Part 4 where the mythology starts collapsing in on itself. The Dream Warriors obviously was a pretty cool concept. I think I'm geeky enough to admit it. I gotta acknowledge goodness where it exists. But by the time you get to Part 4, like Freddy's got faces growing out of his stomach and his back. There's some weird kind of random transition between protagonist characters that is really difficult to describe. Like, I think if you're going to describe Nightmare on Elm Street, you just talk about, the guy who kills you in your dreams. But if you ever try to, like, sit down and explain, like, movie by movie what happens, I don't, like, it wouldn't make a ton of sense, especially by the time you get to, like, The Dream Child. I've seen that movie a few times. I can hear you, I think. You talking?
Yep.
No, go ahead, Eric.
I'll just finish my point and then you can jump in. By the time you get to Dream Child, it's like incomprehensible what's even happening. I mean, Freddy's Dead basically just forgets what happened in the previous two movies or kind of glosses over it because by that point it had all sort of collapsed under its own weight and we needed Tom Arnold and Roseanne to show up to usher Freddy off into death. So and again, like I say, if we're talking about the mythology, we got to consider the whole picture. Like, in Freddy's Dead, we got Freddy using the power glove. We have this daughter come out of nowhere. And, again, I know Jason's guilty of this too, the way he's all of a sudden got, like, a sister and a niece or whatever. But, like, it just seems like all of a sudden they just insert these new characters and random new people are the ones that kill them off. At least with Friday the 13th, we were already kind of preconditioned that each movie, other than like the Tommy Jarvis arc, is just, new people facing Jason each time. Freddy really only had kind of Nancy as a compelling protagonist, and then I guess kind of, what's her name, Tina, I guess? But then they just, like, left that story on the ground. Again, I think that causes problems for the, like, more compelling mythology argument on the Nightmare side.
Let me say this. Let me just say this. The only thing that can really kill Jason is box office. All right? But now, the thing is, though, is that what Wes Craven did in New Nightmare was brilliant because he began the movie, and then later on the film, they say the only way to stop Freddy is to make another movie. And you're like, what on earth? That doesn't make any sense. But the end of the movie has Nancy reading the screenplay to her son, which is the beginning of the film. So the whole film, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, is a loop. And if it's a loop, that means Freddy is permanently trapped within the movie and can never get out again. Okay, Jason, you can stop going to see his movies. Freddy is so freaking evil, they had to loop him.
They eventually stopped going to see his movies too.
That's
And
true.
don't forget everybody about Jason Goes to Hell. But that was New Line's first Friday the 13th movie, and that was the house that Freddy built. So it took them to fuck up Friday the 13th.
Excuse me, Freddy versus
Oh,
Jason made more money than all the series combined.
Let's not discuss longevity just yet. That's a criteria that we'll get to very soon. Let me just remind everybody out there who's watching, if you want to join in the discussion with us, you can tweet at us at TSF Nation. Come over to the website, thesausagefactoryshow.com. Join us in the live chat there, or join us or leave comments in the comment section of the YouTube video. Be sure you are voting on who you think is winning the debate thus far at thesausagefactoryshow.com. In the live chat, there's a poll there. Orc has something he is dying to say. Orc, you've got the floor.
Okay, real quick. Hey, show of hands. Does anybody remember Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4 and Part 5? Neither do I.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Not help
I got to sign once you get the house.
Oh.
Oh shit!
Okay, guys. Let's move on. Let's move on to another criteria. We talked about the mythology. We talked about the background. Let's talk about which character, in your opinion, is ultimately scarier. Now, and we can go a lot of different directions here. But let's talk about which one is scarier in your book. I'm going to start with the Friday the 13th side. Mike, go ahead. You've got the floor.
Well, like I said, Jason was like Jaws. He didn't talk. He was silent. He was just this, this shadow of death looming on you, kind of like a Michael Myers type of thing, where they was just there and you were dead. When Freddy was talking to you and cracking wise, and to me that wasn't as scary as the thing that doesn't respond. And then when you find out it's too late, you can't overpower him. The terror, that to me was scarier. Going out into the woods and running into some big guy that just stood there and looked at you and then started walking towards you and you didn't know why. To me, that was scarier than having a bad dream. And with the mythology, I think Nightmare on Elm Street, although the first film I will give credit to because Wes Craven, but he wasn't involved in the entire series, and it went downhill pretty quick after that, and they really kind of got goofy with the mythology. And even the first film didn't end well because there was a big battle over the ending, and the blow up sex doll going through the window and all and the weird shit going on. And like I said about Jason Goes to Hell, look at what New Line does anyway. To me, the silent, unstoppable killer, and not knowing why, without the reasons, without all the. He's just going to kill you and that's it. And you have to survive. To me, that was scary.
Okay. Well, you see, Jason is in the woods and he can jump out at you at any minute. And that is scary. However, Freddy Krueger wears the colors of Christmas. All right. And he can be anybody. Okay. He's not just lingering around. He can be your mom. He could be your dad. He could be, your best friend. And then all of a sudden you get gutted by this guy. You get dragged into a water bed. Okay. And then it's just, to me, that's what's scary is that the fact that you have to go to sleep at some point, and then you don't know whether you're asleep or awake, and it could be your best friend, or hell, it could be a dog that just pisses fire. It could be anything. So.
Well, Freddy requires fear to be strong. Jason creates fear. Hence Freddy versus Jason.
I would have to say that Mike's points there are quite weak in that he had to he had to reach out to other things and make comparisons such as Jaws and Michael Myers, basically saying that Jason is scary because because he doesn't stand out on his own, but because he's just part of a popular archetype. Whereas, yes, okay, fine. I guess we can just make any sort of killer and make them silent and suddenly they're amazingly menacing. Whereas Freddy has to stand out on his own and be completely unique in being the type of killer that actually has a personality and actually has dialogue and speaks and still maintains that aura of menace, but in a completely different way and in a more challenging and creative way. Like you said, It's true. You've got the unresponsive killer. It doesn't matter what you say to him. It doesn't matter what you say to Freddy. Do you really think you're going to out-debate Freddy? You're going to make some good points in this debate, and Freddy's not going to kill you? That's ridiculous. He'll just
No, he's going to crush you like a fucking
cockroach. It just adds to how sadistic he is. That whatever you say, he'll just mock you for it, and then take you down in the end.
He's a pathetic little man that's not scary at all.
Well, let's keep it. Let's keep it with the
child molester in a Christmas sweater. That's not scary.
He doesn't. Oh, I think it's been scary for quite a few people.
That's pretty scary to me.
Especially those children he molested.
Maybe if I was a child.
I think they were
cool. You're the size of a child. I know why it's scary.
Let's keep it with the Friday the 13th contingent just for now, and then we'll turn it over to Nightmare and let you guys make your counterpoints. Eric, go ahead. You've got the floor.
Sure. So, I think Mike kind of embodied largely what I think too, which is, and it's why I like Halloween kind of overall. I know that's not part of this debate, but just the idea of that silent, menacing foe that's creeping around in the shadows. But if we're talking about scarier too, again, I think we need to look at the bigger picture. I mean, I think with the Nightmare films, you can say Nightmare 1 is funny, is scary. Nightmare 2 maybe has a couple scary sort of sequences. By the time you hit Nightmare 3, though, the scary is sort of turning, like Mike was talking about, he's he's making puns, he's turning into Dick Cavett, he's got Zsa Zsa Gabor on the couch. Like, the fear level with Freddy really drops off pretty quick. And by part 4, we're just doing, MTV music videos, we've got rock music coming out of the bed with the naked chick. We've got, weird Harryhausen stuff going on.
You're bringing up a naked chick as a negative. Okay.
Well,
that's very interesting.
Well, it's a bummer killer because it turns out to be Freddy. But whereas I think over the course of the Jason series, obviously we can argue about the merits of each film and one being scarier than another, but I think over the course of the series, whether you consider a jump scare legitimate or not, I mean, the fact of the matter is, you can watch those movies and, Jason pops out and gets you, or he grabs someone in the leg, or, he does one of the various things he does, and he's scaring you throughout. I mean, it's really not, I don't think, until probably part 8, Manhattan, where Jason's fear has completely gone. And I mean, again, both series were flagging by that point, but I just think Jason had a longer sustained period of being able to scare the audience and to scare the people actually in the story with him.
Well, that's really interesting because
go ahead. I'm going to turn the floor over. I'm going to turn the floor over to the Nightmare on Elm Street contingent. You guys make your counterpoint and make your point also for why you think Freddy was scarier. Go.
Well, the Friday the 13th side, to bring up that that while they didn't know what they had right from the beginning, once they got going, it perfected it. Whereas Freddy was supposed to decline as the series went on. It's interesting that if they were so sure of what a great character they had in Jason, why the fuck did they make him sit out an entire movie? Part 5, it turns out, oh look, somebody else can just do his job for him, and it's just as effective and just as scary. And it was a new beginning. The whole point at the time was they were thinking Jason has become tired and predictable and boring. We need to make this different and maybe just replace him. Now, they didn't wind up doing that, but the very fact that they thought about that, I think even shows that the creators themselves didn't have a lot of confidence in this character because they realized in looking at the character, there wasn't very much there. Whereas the idea of replacing Freddy never crossed anybody's mind, and it just couldn't be done.
Let me just add to that. Oh, sorry, Jay. Let me just throw out a quick point. You know what? It's funny that part 5 at the time, people didn't like it, so they brought back Jason to come back in part 6. But now you talk to people online in the horror community, people seem to really praise part 5 as being one of the best, if not their favorite in the series. And also, I might add that part 5, the one that doesn't star the real Jason, has the best tits in the entire saga.
There's no debating that. There's no debating that.
Hands down.
Yeah, I think it points to how prepubescent Jason's character really is, and his immaturity and his fear of sex and his asexuality. Whereas Freddy, it was always implied always implied that there was sex behind it, and that he's definitely getting some sort of sexual charge of what he does, which again makes it much more
I just
compelling.
watched
Come on.
I just watched Never Sleep Again last night, and Rennie Harlan's talking about, we got to have boobs because that's what the 17-year-old boys want to see. That's what they want. And where did they get that from? They got it from Friday the 13th.
How much money did that movie make, Mike?
Oh, that was a block.
49 million, I believe, was the domestic gross on that one.
Stingray,
Everybody gets lucky every once in a while.
Stingray,
Yeah, Jay.
you've been quiet up to this point.
You are not
I'm
pulling
sure
your
you're
weight,
sitting on something. I know. I'm sure Jason's sitting on something because those glasses make him look really smart. So
My name is Jason, but I'm Team Freddy. Okay.
On Freddy's
All right,
top.
follow
Turn
up,
code.
follow up Cole's asexual remark, please.
Jesus,
He's arguing against Cameron.
Jay's
The
got
floor is
a
yours, Stingray.
Jay's got a stick of dynamite for your face.
I mean, it's originality is what we're talking about here. And back to what Mike said earlier about, this wouldn't exist. Nightmare on Elm Street wouldn't exist without Friday the 13th. Neither one would exist without Halloween. So there's really no reason to even argue that. And they just farted the same movie out 6 times or 8 times in a row until New Line got a hold of it and put that turd out. Jason Goes to Hell. We all know what's up there.
And what was the point? What did they do to after Jason Goes to Hell was such a terrible movie, and they knew they'd done such a terrible movie? They thought, how can we save this? How does Jason Go to Hell end? It ends with Freddy coming in to save the day and actually legitimize this shit and say, "Don't worry, it might get better because Freddy's going to come in and class up the joint."
Oh,
Well, they had
it
that
gets
opportunity
better,
with
Cole.
Part 7 of Friday the 13th, but they punked out because they knew Jason was going to kick Freddy's ass, and they couldn't have that happen.
Hey, at least Freddy never went to space.
Ooh,
Jason got to
low
go to
blow.
space.
That was a low blow. That was a low blow. That was a low blow.
Like you can't have nightmares in space.
That was it.
But they didn't do it, so I guess you can't. Oh,
Freddy did have the power. That was almost
Okay,
as bad as
look.
Jordan.
What about that Looney Tunes bullshit?
Super
With the
Freddy
spikes
versus
and
Uber
shit.
Jason right now. Battle.
What Looney Tunes?
In part
Well,
6,
Looney
with the part
Tunes.
6 where the kid was falling and something, he had the board with spikes on it on wheels, and he rolls it out, and there's some kind of Looney Tunes sound
Like I
effect.
said,
And
Yeah, it's like Bugs
originality.
Bunny.
I'm sorry he didn't turn into a woman
That's what I mean.
and
But
go
even
up
Bugs
Buck
Bunny isn't
Rogers'
safe from
woman's
your
Freddy.
killer's not scary if he's a comedian. That
Well,
funny
thank
takes
you.
away all scary.
He's not
Put him on a
scary.
cruise
When
ship.
we
He's
go
very-
Friday to see
Absolutely.
cool, awesome, inventive kills, we go to fucking Nightmare on Elm Street to hear jokes.
We don't see. I'm sorry that Freddy doesn't have Casey Jones' fucking mask, and he's got fucking turn into a worm to go up Buck Rogers' woman's pussy in
Okay.
part 9 or whatever.
Okay, we're gonna lay this topic to rest.
His mama had to do it for him in the first movie. His mom had to kill for him. His mama.
Well, let's face it, the mask is what saved the series for him. Because they
Who
could
was the movie?
decide on a
Wasn't even the
face.
killer.
They didn't even have a face they could decide on. Every time he took the mask off at the end of the movie, it was always a different looking face. The only thing that gave continuity to it was that mask, which is just an
A
external
60-year-old woman
not
killing
for
people.
himself.
Okay,
He kind
okay.
of looked a little different from movie to movie, and he never seemed to have a very, robust wardrobe.
He had to have a 60-year-old mom kill for him.
Well, let's stop. Okay, this category is ended. We have ended this category. This category is ended. Everybody out there who's watching, head over to the live chat on the sausagefactoryshow.com. Scroll down to the poll. Vote for who you think is winning the debate thus far, and I'll go ahead and give you guys a little update. As of right now, Friday the 13th is winning the poll, is winning the debate according to Sausage Factory Nation, but it's incredibly close. There's only 2 votes separating Friday the 13th.
It's a
All
shame,
those people
man.
just made up their minds before it even started.
3 on 4, we're still winning.
Oh,
Easiest win of my life.
Yeah,
Okay,
but you guys have
next criteria. Let's talk about which series had the best kills. And I'm going to start with the Friday the 13th team. B-Movie Mike, I want you to get us started. Best kills.
I have a list.
Oh, I made one too. All right,
I
let's
have
see
a
how
list
they
as
rank.
well. I have a list
That's
also.
more kills that's in. I mean,
Oh
Freddie,
my
come on,
God.
what, three a movie? Come on. Tom Savini showed everybody how to do it. The throat slitting in the woods at the beginning, that was probably one of the most graphic throat slittings I've ever seen on film at that time anyway. And then Kevin Bacon's arrow through the throat, that was something new. That set the stage for creative kills to come. Hatchet in the face, and then the decapitation at the end. I mean, right there's 4, and there's more, but that's 4 iconic kills in one movie, which I think is more than you could come up with for the entire Nightmare series.
They set the record for the most off-screen kills as well.
Yeah,
Well, that was the MPAA. Now we both got raped on that one.
Friday the 13th, you'll have your opportunity. Friday or Nightmare on Elm Street side, you'll have your opportunity. You'll have
Never seen that. Another Tom Savini movie. Never seen that before.
You'll have your opportunity shortly. Go ahead, Mike. Continue, Eric. If you want to throw some at them from your list, go
I was
for
going
it.
to say machete in the face in part 2.
That
Double impaling, but it was supposed to be a lot more graphic. But then the MPAA got a hold of it again.
Irrelevant.
Excuses.
If it's not on the
Spear
screen,
gun to the eye, machete through the body. Let's
we're not
see.
here to debate
Head
what could have
twisting
been.
forward. There's so many iconic ones.
That's
Obviously,
one.
Voorhees again. We have to mention those. I mean, you can go through every movie on Friday the 13th and probably find 3 or 4 iconic kills in every movie. You can't do that.
He
Anymore.
goes
What
to
about that
space
machete
and
one?
takes
When he did it with a
chick's
machete, that
face,
was original.
Makes it ice and then
Used a
slams
tree
it on
trimmer,
the
a
fucking
spear
counter.
gun. Freddy had what? 4 knives glued to his fucking fingers. Come on.
Eric,
come on.
Eric, you've got the floor. What are some of
I
the
was I gotta jump in and help my man here because hold on. So you've got popped eyeball in part 3. You've got Jason himself in part 4, where basically his entire head splits open. And I actually, first of all, I completely disagree with Cole that like we can't consider the MPAA thing. 'Cause here's why you can. The reason why Freddy's kills wouldn't get edited is because they're so cartoonish and fantastical and outlandish that the MPAA thinks it's a cartoon. They won't edit that. Whereas
so we're going to
Jason
give the
kills-
MPAA all sorts of credit here. I didn't know they were such
the kills
intelligent
were
and
so
smart.
graphic that the MPAA had to
Protect us
censor
from
them. That's right. First of all, I'm not, if you're asking me to defend the MPAA, I'm not going to do that. But I'm just saying,
Sounds
like the difference
Actually,
is
what happened was they fell asleep watching, they hit a switch, and whooped the shit out of them.
They did a bunch of cocaine and set off a squib and put a machete in somebody.
That's what happens when you watch movies about sleeping people.
iconic
Go ahead,
sleeping
Eric.
bag kill. The iconic Julius losing his head in the 8th one. You've got the unedited death in Jason Goes to Hell, and I rarely quote or point to anything positive in that movie, but the chick literally getting split in half at the moment of completion.
That's awesome.
You've got liquid nitrogen in Jason X. The girl's face gets crushed. And then I will point to Freddy vs. Jason just for, I'll point to one of Jason's many kills, because I think Freddy got, 1 in that movie? The boyfriend bed kill, where he basically, chops the guy into pieces and then smashes the bed together at the end. Boom, there it is. Have it.
Orc, do you have anything to add? Do you have anything to add?
Handstand kill in part 3. That's all I gotta say.
Good one.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you brought up a good point about fantasy versus realism.
Oh,
Yep.
You guys are defending a fantasy. All right, we're talking realism, visceral.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's not
okay,
a giant,
yeah,
it's not a
fancy
giant
like rocks.
penis snake eating us. It's a guy, cutting our
Oh,
throat,
dude.
right?
I'm on board already.
Okay.
Oh my god, like my fantasy horror movies, with butter knives and shit.
Nightmare on Elm Street
Hey,
side.
Freddie, make me a sandwich, you bitch.
Nightmare on Elm Street side. You've got the floor. Go.
I think it's interesting that Eric criticizes the kills in A Nightmare on Elm Street because they're more cartoony and less serious, and yet anytime you point to a kill that's supposed to be one of the more memorable ones in the Friday the 13th series, it always is outlandish and cartoony and in ridiculous fashion. I mean, either the kills are completely boring and uninspired because he's stabbing and slashing people with a machete, or if they really want to liven things up, then they do cross the realm into ridiculous. Suddenly he has access to all these weapons he shouldn't really be getting, and is in all these situations where it's not very realistic or to think that he would ever have access to the things that he's getting anyway. So I think that every time you talk about a kill in Friday the 13th that is supposed to be really memorable and special, the only thing that made it that way was by upping the fantasy factor and making it more ridiculous and out there and over the top. You guys talk about realism, but I don't see anything too real about half the things Jason does.
But your movies are complete fantasy, not portions of it. The entire thing.
Yeah, but your movies I've seen 50 times, and 50 slasher movies that were made, half of them by Tom Savini. You talk about part 2, they stole that shit from another movie, like a Mario Bava's film called Twitch of the Death Nerve. That's how shitty they are. They can't even come up with their own kills. Freddy, he can make a woman to a cockroach and kill her ass. He killed Johnny Depp
That's
and made him
scary.
just blood.
Yeah, the Roach Motel.
None of them are scary.
I'm much more
None of them
scared
are
of being
scary.
sucked
Let's
into
be
my
honest.
bed.
Let's get rid of the scary thing. None of them have ever been scary. They're just fun. Neither franchise are scary. It's what's more fun. And it's more fun to turn a woman to a cockroach and be absolutely nothing. It's more fun to kill Johnny Depp and make him just blood. It's more fun.
That's more visceral than hanging a woman upside down in a sleeping bag over a fire.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
wait,
a
Stingray,
lame kill.
Going to the
That's
ring
a
and
lame
getting
kill.
desperate.
I want to hear from you, Stingray. I want to hear from you, Stingray.
That's a
Man, I
lame
think
kill.
just the Dream Warriors alone has got all the kills in all the Friday films beat.
Human puppet.
It's so many. I mean, originality, exactly what Rambo said. I mean, it's the same thing over and over again. You know, they cut it out, so they had to go straight to an off-screen kill.
There's no film
cut
in the
out and put it
Nightmare
to another
series better
slasher
than
movie.
Friday the 13th Part 4.
Yeah, machete going
Freddy
down.
has never
face going
relied
down
on
a
people
machete.
finding the bodies of people killed off screen. That's a cheap That's a cheap thing that's used all over the place in slashers. You never find that in Freddy. You don't find somebody stumbling upon the body that the killer inexplicably knew exactly where to put it. Freddy doesn't mess around with shit like that. He doesn't need to scare people by creating tableaus.
That's because he doesn't take a house full of people on all at once. No, he goes into their minds and fucks with them.
And he kills like 2 people a movie, and so they can't have one of them happen off screen because then there'd be
He's
no
not a
death.
slasher, he's a slacker.
Somebody check the facts on that one. I think
Let me ask you guys this. The sentiment in Sausage Factory Nation, what a lot of people are talking about in the chat, is that Freddy's kills were more imaginative. Yes, however, they were a lot less bloody and they were more sort of goofy, cartoony kills.
Exactly.
Nightmare on Elm Street side. What do you have to say about that?
As I said, anytime these guys want to bring up a kill that was so great for Freddy, all it is something that is just sort of going into the realm of cartoony anyway. Otherwise, if you want it, if you wanted to completely discount that and say and focus on reality and visceral, you'll just bring up a bunch of boring kills that are the same every time. Oh, this person got stabbed. Oh, this person got decapitated. On and on.
I don't understand the goofy cartoony aspect. I mean, the first one, you had a girl torturedly put to the ceiling while her whole stomach was slashed in 4 times at the same time. That's nothing goofier.
That's one of the scariest kills I've ever seen in any movie.
I will definitely agree that that's the best kill in the Nightmare on Elm Street series, and again, I attribute that to Wes Craven, but he was only there for the first and last.
There's the elephant in the room that we have to get to eventually.
And hold on, and like the whole goofy thing, I didn't just throw that out there because like, oh, I'm just criticizing all their kills as goofy. I was addressing the point that the Friday the 13th kills get so muted because they're realistic, whereas the Freddy kills can get away with being kind of graphic and fantastical and frankly goofy and they can show all of it because they're like that. That's why, like, and again, I'm going to cross franchises for a second. That's why, like, in like Star Trek 6, they made Klingon blood pink. Because they could show a bunch of Klingons getting shot and have pink blood, and they can't make it an R rating. So Freddy can get away with having these really violent, graphic things happen because it's a fantasy. You have Nintendo Freddy stepping on a kid in Freddy's Dead. I mean, like, whereas Jason, like, I don't buy this like that they're fantasy kills. They're just taking something like fantastical, like if somebody got hit in the side of the head with a machete, like, I guess I don't know what that would look like, but what they did in part 4, what happened to Jason, that kind of seemed like a good approximation for it. That was a pretty good kill.
We never had to listen to Jason go, "Nice hearing from you, Carlos."
Well, listen, holiday
you got
style,
to hear him grunt and
Holiday Styles actually brings up an interesting point in the chat. He says that the nightmare kills, they may not have been as scary, but which kills were more fun to watch, the nightmare kills or the Friday kills? Now, Friday the 13th contingent, you take that one. We'll point counterpoint.
I don't know, but I hear all this shit about fantasy and blah 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 blah. You know what? Okay, Friday the 13th is like a game of poker. This is how fucking retarded A Nightmare on Elm Street is. It's like fucking playing Dungeons and Dragons. I'm a wizard. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. No, I'm rewinding the tape and returning it to Blockbuster.
But Orc, is it more fun to watch Jason just simply, slash a guy in across the throat, or is it more fun to watch Freddy, slam the chick's face into the TV, or the Roach Motel sequence? Which is more fun to watch, do you think?
Is it more fun to see Jason's head slide down a machete or put my balls in a waffle maker?
To answer the question, it all depends on really what you like personally. Is it more scary to you walking through a dark room, knowing somebody's in the room but you can't see them, and at any moment they can attack you, and you got to try to find the door before they get you? Or is it more fun watching somebody play with their food like a cat and a mouse, and come up with all these goofy, different scenarios just to mess with them before they kill them? I don't know. It depends on what's more visceral to you. What actually brings about fear?
Yeah, like becoming a motorcycle isn't particularly like frightening.
Or a meatball and a
That's
pizza.
a fucking awesome scene, though, isn't it?
Nightmare on Elm Street team.
Awesome.
Counterpoint. Nightmare on Elm Street team.
Fear? There's no fear in any of these movies. What are we talking about? They're just fun to watch. Was anyone really scared of Friday 13th? Yeah, I was scared.
Well, since you guys are defending a fantasy, I'm going on a ledge here.
If you don't have enough
like
air
maybe if it was
or
real.
space, I was scared when Corey fell on the ball.
You guys like snuff films.
It's gonna
You
kill
would
us
rather watch
all.
a snuff film than a fantasy film.
I was scared when Corey Feldman came out with his band and sang a song, but
See, if Freddy, you wouldn't have had that, so we win.
Well, I'm glad the song Barbie Girl didn't come out during when the Nightmare on Elm Street series was popular, because it probably would have made its way into one of his films.
conjecture.
You guys ever heard of Docket? Pretty fucking awesome, aren't they?
Yeah.
They ever play in a Friday film?
but Alice Cooper did.
I don't think so.
Alice Cooper, son.
Oh yeah, he was. He was really honored by having somebody crash an RV. Very classic. What a classic kill that is.
After the sex scene, Cole. Something you would know about. Just kidding.
After the
No,
girl's face got slammed through the side and it like came out the side looking all messed up. I mean,
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Jason makes his
Freddie
reputation
slams
by
into
killing people on the toilet. We know it's one of his big
And-
things.
she was done
Freddy
pooping
kills
by
Zaza
that
Gabor,
point.
so that's another thing.
What?
Freddie killed Zaza Gabor. Freddie killed Johnny Depp.
She wasn't real. That's the point. Josh Gabor was like just manufactured for his sequel.
None of these people are real, so your idea is useless.
Yeah, they wanted to have Dick
None of these
Cavett in the
people are
movie,
real,
and they
so they
said,
didn't really
You
die.
guys want to keep
bring a
talking-
guest on you
Let's get
would
literal.
rather have to be killed, and since he hated Zsa Zsa Gabor as a joke, he brought her on for that. It was a joke. Welcome to prime
There you
time,
go.
bitch. If TV comes alive and smashes a girl's
What?
face into it.
Well, at least they could attract
That's
those
fun.
sorts of
Pretty
cameos.
awesome.
I guess pretty awesome if you're a fan of Tex Avery. I mean,
I'm
in
pretty.
your horror films.
I'm sorry Freddy didn't kill someone with a banana.
But again,
Or
we're
a banana.
saying
was just
which
eating the
kills are
banana.
more fun to watch. It's really no contest
Yeah.
which is more fun to watch.
like that one.
Or can mock that kid turning into a wizard and stuff, and it is silly. I'm not trying to say that it's great, it's awesome, but it's certainly a lot more interesting than this person is running through the woods.
And by the
see
way,
how
you want to
it
talk
takes him out. Instead of this guy's created his own little dream world and dream identity, and he's going to use the abilities he's given himself to try to repel the killer in vain. Whereas there's no extra abilities or extra sensory, environment for these people running away from Jason. It's sort of the same thing. Oh, I'm running on a boat. I'm running in the woods. I'm running in a cabin. It's run.
Jason
my-
didn't have a weakness. You had to. If you pulled Freddy out of the dream world, he was a pussy.
Yep.
If
However,
Jason
Mike
has
said-
some water, he's a pussy.
Yeah, I seem to remember him shirking away from a little bit of a drip.
Well,
from
Ronnie,
the
you had to
thing.
come up with some reason for Jason to be weak. Otherwise, it
Well,
wouldn't have been much of a
that's-
movie.
Yeah,
Who's
they had to
carrying
manufacture
bullshit at
it.
the end of Freddy
Okay.
versus Jason?
Okay.
If it was
okay.
It
manufactured,
rained on him,
manufactured
and he
within
got
the
on his
city.
knees, ready to suck
Okay.
Freddy's dick.
okay. This criteria is over.
Okay, let Cameron sound check. Can we hear
Chris,
him?
Cameron, can we
Can you hear me
buddy?
at all?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to say one thing, and that is Mike made the declaration that no film in the Nightmare on Elm Street series was as good as the final chapter. Let me tell you something about final chapter. That film is so inconsistent. Even the dog committed suicide in that movie.
Boom.
That was weak, man. I'm sorry. Weak sauce.
Okay,
The dog jumped out the window.
Let's move on. That criteria is closed. We've closed that criteria. Let's move on from best kills to which series had the best final girls or guys.
Really? Are you fucking serious?
And I'm gonna start with the Friday the 13th side. Go ahead, Mike. You've got the floor.
This is a contest? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Really. Adrian King, Amy Steele. I mean, you can't beat that. I mean, you got Nancy. That's it.
Yeah, so we got
That's not it.
Amy Steele. We got
That's not
Trish
it.
from part
What are you talking
4. Tommy's a good final girl from multiple movies.
Yeah, they even matched you with your final girl in part 2. But Tommy was,
Dude,
Tina's
Martin's
an
a
ass
fucking
kicker.
psychic.
He wasn't a whiny little bitch. He was an ass kicker.
Listen,
I'm sorry.
we'll get to
That's why
debating.
Freudian still lived.
We'll
There you go.
get to debating how hot Mark his last name escaped me right now, but we'll get to debate. We'll debate that point here shortly. Don't
That's
worry.
an owl scene, man.
But
I'm sorry.
okay,
I just
So hot.
who are they?
Poor Grady.
They're
He
nobody.
didn't know what was going on.
go ahead, Eric or Orc. Better final girls, final guys.
Well, so Mike already covered 2 of them, but you've also got Chris from part 3, turned out to be a badass. You've got Trish, Tommy's sister. You got, again, Tommy's a final girl, sort of. You've got Tina, who's throwing friggin' couches and dropping roofs on Jason's head, and admittedly kind of following at the back of the pack. You still got Lexa Doig from Jason X.
She was badass.
She comes from the past to come into space to fight Jason. I mean,
And does
again,
nothing.
you guys have
nothing.
Nancy. And then you have kind of 80s reject Tina, who, has a nice little montage of getting dressed and putting on her
Her name is
Karate Kid
Alice,
outfit.
not Tina.
Oh, you're right, it is Alice.
Alice.
Her name is Alice.
The actress's name is Tina. I'm sorry, you're right, Alice.
No,
No, it's not. It's Lisa Wilcox.
Lisa Wilcox.
Lisa
Alice.
Wilcox.
I'm thinking of Tina then. Shit.
Tina involved in there.
I don't know. The weakness in part
Wilcox is
4
Alice.
where they had a different girl play
You
the.
mentioned Freddy's ass with Kung Fu.
And she gets killed and passes on her dream power of pulling people into a dream, and then the girl absorbs all these different dream powers to become some kind of kung fu dream warrior thing.
Because the Cyborg and Jason X was so much better.
I want to hear from Orc. Orc, who was your favorite final girl or guy from Friday the 13th? Let us have it, and why?
All I gotta say is Friday the 13th, part 2, 3, 4, and 6. The final girls in those movies. Oh, buddy! Amazing.
My favorite one overall is Amy Steele. I loved how her character
I'm so
used
glad
child
you brought that up.
psychology, and she was actually
The
smart
most
about it.
overrated final girl in the history of slashers is Amy.
Whoa,
I am
blasphemy there,
so
buddy.
sick of hearing about her.
Oh,
It wasn't even-
It's like being a
And I mean,
contrarian.
people can say that this isn't a fair criticism, but this is true. She wasn't very pretty, which is actually part of the whole thing. She's so
Oh,
for one thing, and I mean, what was the big deal? It showed that Jason was such a stupid killer that he could be fooled by a goddamn sweater.
All of a sudden, I have Tourette's.
I mean,
What?
jeez, could you imagine trying
I
to
just
pull
got a
that shit
text.
on Freddy? Oh, I'm
just
wearing
got a-
somebody's sweater. Leave me alone.
But
And
here's how
Freddy
strong
would
Freddy
fall
is.
for that.
I take
just
away any
got a
power you
text from
gave me.
Amy
You're
Steele.
shit.
I just
A
got
mirror!
a text from Amy
Oh,
Steele.
no!
She's canceled her appearance as the special guest on our
See?
Friday the 13th Part 2 live commentary.
Thanks, Cole
God
Obama.
Damn it.
Because she's overrated
Yeah,
as
shit
hell.
talk Kevin
And if
Bacon.
anybody
too.
ever went to a convention to pay for her autograph, then I feel sorry for them.
She was a
I
better
actually went
final
last
girl. in
weekend and met her. She was very nice.
Yeah, she was a better final
Well,
girl in
talking
April
about
Fool's
the
Day.
Still quite
character, not
attractive.
the actress, just the character,
And
not the real world
is
person.
still quite attractive.
Let's get this straight. Talking about the character.
Let's move on.
Whereas,
Nightmare on Elm Street side, go ahead. You've got the floor. You've got defend your final girls in Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare on Elm Street team, go.
Well, the best thing about the Nightmare on Elm Street thing with the final girl thing is that they didn't just have to rely on it the way so many slashers did. Yes, they had final girls, but they at least mixed things up and made things different. They played with the whole idea of making at least some of the characters making you guess a little more. Like in Dream Warriors, we had characters that weren't just lambs to the slaughter. They could actually fight back a little bit, which is made them a lot different from the lemmings you see running around in Friday the 13th. So again, we wound up with a final girl in there, but at least it wasn't the same rinse repeat. These people are off, these people are off, we'll see who's left. Yeah, they're off, but at least in more dramatic and interesting fashion, because at least we have Dream Warriors and people that use their skills and stuff to at least try to fight back, whereas it's the same thing over and over again on Friday the 13th. Most of these people are killed before they even know what's going on. You know, there's no drama, there's no suspense, really. You walk into that area, what's that sound? Jason has killed you. Okay, well, really interesting. But yeah, the final girls are easily more memorable in Friday the 13th.
I agree.
Oh, there it is, Freudian slip.
Okay, we got it.
Freudian slip. Debate
For
over
3.
in a Nightmare on Elm Street, just because there's actually something to separate them from each other too. They didn't all just do the same thing. Whereas it's pretty much the same thing in Friday the 13th. It's just sort of whoever is last. It didn't even really have much to do with. It didn't really have much to do with how them being smart or skillful or anything like that. It was just luck of the draw that the other people were killed. And by the time, and again, yeah, once you've seen about 8 of your friends die, you realize something is going wrong, and maybe now you're a little more self-aware and in a position to fight back. Whereas it doesn't work that way at all in A Nightmare on Elm Street. You know the people are dying, and there's not really much you can do about it. It doesn't make you any more aware. But yeah, there's a lot more separation in the final people in those movies, even if some of them weren't as good, and you don't just see it repeated. I mean, what was so different about Amy Steele from the girl in the very first Friday the 13th? She was the girl who was last, just again, whereas you have to admit there's a pretty big difference between seeing Nancy in the first one and then the guy in the second one, and they are facing completely different sort of scenarios. Whereas I'll admit I never liked the whole idea of possession in the second one, but at least it mixed things up a little bit, and he was dealing with a different thing and actually got some help from his friend.
Originality.
Broke all the rules from the
Positive
first movie, though.
homosexuality.
The
It totally
first
broke-
male Scream Queen.
He's not
Exactly.
supposed to be a physical entity. I mean, that totally broke all the rules from the original film. And where they really jumped the shark was part 4 when they refused to bring back Patricia Arquette because that completely screwed up the chemistry of the cast.
You want to
And
talk
then they
about
just
jumping
went
the shark?
complete, and they made a wrong turn in Albuquerque at that point.
I
Placed
don't
by
know.
Tuesday night.
Their decision to not bring her back, I think.
She's
They were
good.
pregnant or
Super
wanted
talented.
money or something.
She had the audacity to ask for more money.
Hey,
My-
but then we got Tuesday night, and she gave us one hell of an opening music number. So
I do like that song.
And you're not going to see any final girls in the other series doing that.
I don't
And no
know.
matter how empowered those girls were in The Nightmare, they could not save anybody. All their friends still died. It was all fruitless, and they were still a final girl, just like on Friday.
Well, it's, that's just sort of a self-defeating
They
argument.
didn't really save him.
I mean, on one
Did they-
plane,
did they
we're
save
saying
him
who's
in
the better
Friday?
killer or more effective, and now we're saying, you can't have it both ways. So yeah, sure,
And-
fine.
and
I don't
when
mind
Friday-
saying that they were ineffective in the end because it just strengthens the argument
saved in the
that Freddy is the more efficient killer. That's all.
No, sure. I mean, you could say it's more personal to attack you in your most vulnerable state of being asleep, or when you're out in the middle of nowhere where there's no help and you're on your own. Those are two equally scary things. But Friday the 13th was, I think, more effective because you had the absence of help versus being surrounded by people that weren't paying attention. I mean, it was more like an absence of parents or parents that aren't really paying attention or don't believe you.
But I
one's
would
more
say
frustrating than
that
scary.
I would say that adds very much to the fear and the whole feeling of hopelessness, which you get to see in the movie, like where the girl it has that episode in school. She's surrounded by her friends and her peers, and she's in a public place, and yet she still has these blackouts and is subjected to the horror that is Freddy. And she realizes, here I am in public, surrounded by everybody, and I'm still not safe. They have no idea what's going on. I would say that adds a lot more to the fear and hopelessness of the situation than any person. Yeah, okay, that's one thing anyway. You're on a dark road being chased by a killer. Okay, yeah, no one's going to save you. Well, we've seen that a few times before. We saw that quite a few times before in, I don't know, whatever you want to name, maybe Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something like that. So You know,
she
it's
still
been
has
done.
the ability to tell people she's not completely alone.
I want to hear
Yeah.
from Jay the Stingray. Jay the
And who's gonna
Stingray,
believe her?
defend your ladies.
Tell
Defend
people
your
about
nightmare
Freddy,
ladies.
they cart you off to the nut house.
Man, I mean, you got Heather Langenkamp, obviously.
That's it.
You got Lisa Wilcox.
That's the end of your
That's
list.
not it.
Lisa Wilcox
No.
is awesome. I actually prefer her than it
Well,
was.
I mean, what do you guys got? You got Amy Steele and Adrienne King. Who else? Name me another one.
Dana Kimmel.
Who the fuck is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, who's
That was
that?
Chris. That was Chris.
You
from
got
part
Debbie Sue
3.
Voorhees, who was in there for like 3 minutes. Showed her tits, got killed
Yeah.
Hold on,
immediately.
but we're talking about Final
No,
Girls, not
Yeah,
not
no,
the
she
worst
was-
dress you've ever seen.
She was the one that got.
Well, in
She was the one that got
the
molested by
final girl-
Jason.
Yeah,
the final girl
oh, yeah, I
argument
love that.
also
That little
includes like
flashback
Tommy
makes
Jarvis.
No sense at
Don't
all.
forget Tommy Jarvis.
Tommy
Don't forget
yeah.
Tina.
Lark
And
Park
Tommy-
Lincoln.
And Tommy Jarvis, the character.
Part 7. That was probably the most
Every
powerful
movie.
final girl right there.
Final girl.
Tommy Jarvis was obviously the hottest one. So
Yeah.
You're
And
a big
again,
Jarvis
there was no consistency with Tommy Jarvis. They changed his character and personality every movie.
4 different
He's a
people
scared
played
little
that dude.
kid, and then he's a guy that's gonna replace Jason, and then he's just a completely normal guy for some reason because there's just no consistency there because he's not really much of a character.
I guess if you're a big fan of Nightmare 2, I would expect you to find Tommy attractive.
Nightmare 2, you can extrapolate some themes and stuff. Which
Jason never killed a naked man in the shower.
from any single thing. Oh, okay, that's an interesting tack to take.
He did though.
Stop
I don't.
it.
Sorry, I don't want to cut you
Go
off the
there.
knees, but he did.
Let's not
Yeah,
go-
he totally did.
Well-
He did that to that guy that was singing Tangerine or whatever.
It was slightly different, and whips weren't included.
That's
that was
again,
just before his
Whip
fame.
his ass first.
because it was once again just a standard shower kill. You know, just once again a crappy slasher trying
Powerful
to.
head crushing.
I was gonna say, what do you
trying to-
mean? He like crushed his head against the wall just with his pure strength. I wouldn't call that simple at all.
He didn't need any tricks. He didn't need any fucking sleight of hand bullshit. No, he didn't
Another
chop off his
hollow
fingers and
echo
giggle like a
of
bitch.
the-
I mean, he just
Just trying to climb the mountain that is recreate the kill from Psycho. Can't be done.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else in closing they want to defend their final girls, final guys? Cameron,
Well, I just
Stingray.
yeah, I just want to. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to say about the final girls, we may have less of them in our series, but that's because they have more depth, because they actually continue on to the next film, as they're not disposable like the Friday the 13th cast that just disappeared and reappeared. And then people said, well, there's the Tommy Jarvis arc. Well, that's great. But then they dump him at the end of part 6 anyway. He hasn't even come back since.
He had a complete arc.
You know,
He had a complete
Yeah,
messed up arc where his character kept changing.
the arc of Nightmare that started in 3. Well, that sure ended well.
Yeah,
At least there was consistency.
the consistently bad.
are you going on record? Are you going on record and saying Dream Warriors is the bad film, Eric?
Well, he
I said it
said
was the beginning of the end.
Dream Warriors is good. Like I'd be stupid to say otherwise. But the Dream Child, I watch these movies over and over and over again. I refuse to watch that movie. I will skip to
No.
Freddy's Dead, and Freddy's Dead's horrible.
I can't do
but
much of a
but there's
Dream Child, but
yeah,
I will
but there's
say at least one series was willing to take risks and one wasn't.
and there's entries in your series, Friday the 13th, that you skip over too.
Well, okay, hold on. Sorry, I didn't mean to take us off the topic. If we're gonna get into like what entries in the
points.
overall series we can. I'm just saying, like, I enjoy even Freddy, even Jason Goes to Hell. Like, I enjoy watching every single one of the Friday the 13th films. I skip part 2 Nightmare. I skip part 5 Nightmare. Like, they're just unwatchable.
Well, then
Whereas
you're on
I
the
can
right
watch
team.
I can even watch Jason X. Jason X is fun in a stupid way.
Jason X is porn without the sex scenes.
No, Friday 6, 7, and 8 are better than Nightmare 4, 5, and 6.
Okay.
I just put-
Friday the 13th side, do you guys have anything you want to say in closing, defending or uplifting your final girls, guys?
There
Now's the
shouldn't even
time.
be an argument. They got one.
Megan,
I
I
just-
love you. I love you,
Well,
Megan.
yes. I guess I just challenge the idea that like the Friday girls don't do anything. I mean, Amy Steele's character, if you remember, she kind of figures out what's going on. Like, what is she, like a child psychologist? She sort of starts to theorize and
Which
figure out.
really seems to stretch credibility of the movie, doesn't it, a little bit?
Well,
Not really,
anyway.
because she figures out what's going on, and everybody else is laughing at her, and they don't believe her, just like in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Right. And I don't know what it is, and maybe it's just me. I really got a thing for the chick in the third one, Dana Kimmel, Chris was her character's name. Like, I don't know, she can wear those sweaters for me all day long. And there's just something about her, the way she, like, it just seems like at the end, like it's a legitimate fight. Like, I felt like even Amy Steele was kind of like running from Jason and kind of kicking him in the balls, or once she got the chainsaw. Whereas like Dana Kimmel,
Jason doubling over in pain after getting kicked in the balls. That's dignified.
Hold on, you can't. We're talking about our final girls. We have to talk about the strengths of the characters. You're trying to turn the tables on the villain, and so Chris is like,
yes, I have to give her all sorts of credit for realizing that that's a weak point.
She waits outside the door. She pretty much she starts setting traps for Jason the way he sets traps for other people. But again, I mean, you can just go through these movies. The Friday the 13th female final characters. And again, I count Tommy too. He's not a female, but they start to turn the tables through ingenuity and figuring things out.
Okay, wait. You guys
like Alice.
You want to talk about ingenuity?
Alice at the beginning of part 2, right? Oh, I survived this big ordeal. No, you're dead. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
She's being stalked, man.
They didn't do that to Kristen or whatever her name was in part 4?
Yeah, but at least
you can burn in a fire and throw your powers out, and then we'll just keep going with the movie because we killed off all the leftovers from part 3 without much ceremony. Even though I can't forget the black guy's name in 3 and 4.
You'll just say Alice isn't even great.
Alice there right after the previews. Don't get no popcorn. Don't get none to drink. Just go in because I'm gonna die in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
They were still well done. He got to do that thing where he screamed at the sky, Freddy's back, and he got to say, I'll see you in hell, which is a lot better way to go out than most of the people that meet their fate with Jason. They don't even know who's killing her.
Alice isn't even remarkable in her own right. She had to get the power from the previous chick before she was really anything. I mean, if it had that not happened, she probably would have been...
I can see that point, but that was just to strengthen the previous chick. They're just trying to say how special she was. That's all.
And that's not a stretch.
Let's move on. That criteria is closed. Let's move on. Let's get into which series had the better score, the better theme, and which series had the best sort of mainstream soundtracks. I'm talking about Dawkins versus Alice Cooper. Nightmare on Elm Street side. Nightmare on Elm Street side. I'm going to let you guys go first. Go ahead. You've got the floor, Stingray.
Not fair.
Here's the best and most effective song from Friday the 13th. It goes, and that's kind of the beginning and the end. There's their most.
That's not the question. The question is
that's a soundtrack.
But is that more? Is that more icon? Which is more iconic? Or I'm trying to think of the Nightmare theme off the top of my head.
If you did the Man on the Street interview and you played snippets from both soundtracks, which one do you think would be more easily recognized?
It's not even a debate.
It's not even a
debate. I would say, hello, sir, have you heard of the Fat Boys? And I'd play the Fat Boys track.
The Jaws comparison is apt. It's the same thing. Jaws was just a faceless killer, so he needed his da-da, and so Jason had to rely on. And Jason
31 from talking to the Fat Boys.
Okay, let's go. Okay, go ahead.
Whereas Freddy didn't need a score to rely on necessarily. It was just window dressing.
Well, go ahead. Friday, Nightmare on Elm Street side. Go ahead. Defend your theme. Defend your soundtracks. You had Dawkins. You had what was that band? Dramarama.
All I gotta say is Freddy Krueger is the one that hosted MTV on multiple occasions. Jason
was on Arsenio Hall.
Yeah.
Music debate.
Yeah, and the other thing is that
that was
you have
when
to ask
MTV
yourself,
was somewhat legit. So don't bring up that means because MTV. MTV.
MTV is still legit to me.
You know what though? Like I've got the Nightmare on Elm Street
you're 12.
Score on my my listening device. I don't have the. I mean, I'm not going to throw on the Friday the 13th track. I mean, we all know it.
The disco
but I actually
track.
enjoy the track from Nightmare on Elm Street. And it's not good throughout.
It's like saying I've got the Friday the 13th Blu-ray set, but I only have the Nightmare films on DVD.
Yeah, we're talking about music though.
We're talking about music. And your personal
I mean, it's not good.
Aren't relevant.
Go ahead. Nightmare side. Continue. Go ahead.
I like to think. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. You go ahead.
I was just going to add. Say, which theme do you hear in your house with the lights off by yourself? Are you more terrified? To me, Jason is effective, but it's just the same notes over and over again. A lot in many cases, whereas Nightmare on Elm Street has such a lush kind of theme and score, and there's different keys to it. Where sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's darker, and to just walk through your house, you can hear, you almost feel in the music that you're in a boiler room. Whereas Friday the 13th, it just it
only works
kind of
in-
feels.
Okay, so you
It
guys
only
have the
works in one
scary
environment.
nursery rhyme. Okay.
That's true.
In the first 5 movies of Friday the 13th, it's pretty much the same score. But with Nightmare on Elm Street, each one is distinct and also memorable. I enjoy the score for Elm Street 2. I also enjoy the music Elm Street 4. Hell, I mean, I wasn't here for when we were talking about the women because Google Plus is a fucking asshole. But I really like the Alice character, and she has an actual montage theme in the vein of Rambo and Commando with an actual theme. Damn,
Bad wig and all.
We're not talking about witch. We're talking about music.
She's doing her nunchucks with the bad wig. Yeah, it was cool, man. I like that part. That was awesome.
Yeah, I do too. It is awesome.
Wig work is next, Mike. You wait.
To me, one of the best
Talking
parts of
wigs
the
next.
franchise. She has and then music, and each sequel actually has its own unique score. While most of the Friday 13 films, 5, a little bit of 6, they have kind of the same stuff from Harry Manfredini, and I know in series we're supposed to be like trashing the other, but I like Harry Manfredini stuff, but there wasn't really much variation in the first 6 movies, while each score of Elm Street actually gave their own take on it. So if you don't like the first one, you have the second one. You don't like the second one, you have to score the third one. And that's not even get into the songs. Like even if we're talking about songs, okay, you give Alice Cooper, but each song of Elm Street films, whether it be Dokken or whether it be the anything, all those songs in Elm Street 4, which were big selling soundtracks for a reason. People enjoy those soundtracks and music. But Friday 13th, you could pick Alice Cooper, and that's like the only song you can pick if you talk about song-wise. But you could pick multiple songs in Elm Street.
Well,
Same
you
with
do have a
scores.
point
Each
that
movie has
Nightmare
a distinct score.
was franchised to death versus they had the Freddy lunch boxes and the pajamas and all that shit. So yeah, they were selling that shit to the kids. That's true. So there was more of it, but was it actually quality?
Selling child molester pajamas to kids.
That's genius.
I'd be willing to bet
Had like a Freddy doll. You can sleep with Freddy tonight, honey.
you could show a picture
fuck,
of
man.
Freddy and a picture
Show me
of
tomorrow where he touched you.
to
Yeah.
a child now, and they wouldn't be able to
definitely
tell you the
would.
name of the killer in the Friday the 13th movies. They say it's
Everybody
Hockey
knows.
Mask Killer, but everybody knows what Freddy looks like.
Oh, I don't agree with that at all.
You said
really?
Jason Voorhees.
You're gonna say
He knows the
Jason
fucking last name
Voorhees?
of the dude?
Yeah,
They may not know
We'll
Voorhees,
get
but they
pop
know
culture.
Jason.
Wait. The very next criteria is pop culture impact, so we'll cover all that here shortly. Right now, we're talking about the soundtracks. We're talking about the scores. Does anybody from the Nightmare on Elm Street side have anything they want to add before I turn the floor over to Friday
well,
the 13th?
I think music plays a bigger role in the Nightmare on Elm Street series. And one thing, you can fact check me on this, but off the top of my head, what I think one thing that is very common in the in a Nightmare on Elm Street series that I think is completely absent from Friday the 13th is montages. There's several montage scenes in the Nightmare on Elm Street, and they always, of course, have music playing over them to convey a certain mood that's going on. That
good?
doesn't happen at all. Of course,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I could just say that
Rocky
about every
IV.
point you make too.
Anything that reminds me of Rocky IV, it's good. So there you go.
I would accept that as an argument.
Yeah, but I mean, we've got several montages going on in the Nightmare on Elm Street, and that's where the music sometimes sticks out for you when you have the characters, like when Nancy's trapping the house or things like that, or when the the guy's practicing his karate. But I just mean, yeah, there's a big scene of that where they're all like getting ready to do their thing, and I don't think you see that in any of the Friday the 13th. And you could argue, well, it wouldn't really fit, but that's not really. It doesn't really matter because that's irrelevant to the point I'm making.
I do like that Cole even laughs, though, as he's describing the guy doing his karate to the music montage. That's not an argument, but I just did find that amazing.
That's a great song, though. That's a great song.
But, yeah.
And Nightmare on Elm Street also had the classic "Freddy's dead," over the last credits of Part 6, which I love, with having Lisa Zane going "Freddy's dead," and all of a sudden that just kicks off the whole montage of clips. Yeah.
Because so like I just don't think there's too many moments in Friday the 13th where you can say, oh yeah, I like that moment where they played that song. Like what? When Crispin Glover had a seizure? I mean,
I love that scene. Come on.
Yeah, but I mean the song is not memorable.
You guys have no way the stupidest dance scenes. And that chick dances in Part 5 too.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
the new
life in his eyes.
The new wave chick.
Okay, Friday the 13th side, defend your music, defend your soundtracks. Go ahead, Mike. You're our music man. Go for it.
Well, when it comes to these iconic films, you really can't hate on one specific soundtrack. I mean, Halloween without the music really wouldn't have been the same. I thought the music was appropriate for every film franchise. Can you imagine the Friday the 13th movies with the Nightmare soundtrack? It wouldn't work. Only the Friday soundtrack works for that series. So I really don't have a better. I think they're both good for the movie series that they're attached to. I can enjoy the Nightmare. It's got some good music in it. I think the Friday soundtrack's a little more sparse and visceral. It kind of went for more of a Halloween thing where it was kind of there, but it wasn't there until it was important. It wasn't obstructive, it wasn't all in your face. But the Nightmare music, because it was a dream world and a fantasy, I thought the music really accentuated that aspect of the film. So since I'm a Friday the 13th guy, of course I'm going to say, well, that's the better soundtrack because I like those movies better. But yeah, I can't hate on the Nightmare soundtrack anymore. I can hate on the Halloween soundtrack.
Yeah. I mean, because it's a question of like, well, how do we define better? I mean, to me, the defining thing between the two is I think if you were to just ask regular people, and again, what's a regular person? But like, if you make like the Friday the 13th sound, I definitely think more people are going to recognize that than the Nightmare theme. And that's not a knock on the Nightmare theme, because I'll be honest, I actually really like that music cue. When I watched Freddy vs. Jason for the first time, I got all revved up when, like, over the New Line logo, it was like, the Freddy thing, then followed by the Jason thing. Like, I thought that was pretty cool.
But millennials today will recognize the Saw theme more than those two.
See, but that's just the thing, is I actually think if you make that sound, I think if you do that, people are going to say, oh, Friday the 13th, or they'll say Jason. Like, I think it's recognizable that way. I think it's just more iconic. But
it's recognizable and iconic, but the fact is the movies themselves are so derivative that you could go ha ha, and somebody might even say, oh yeah, Michael Myers.
That's true.
I just think,
if they're a horror movie noob.
It's a much more complicated score too. I mean, you can't just do that with your mouth.
And they keep saying it's ma ma ma, but that's not the way it sounds on the soundtrack. It's
Hey,
we've heard the man himself said, but
we've heard Manfred Eddie tell that story 1,000 times on 1,000 different documentaries.
Well, I actually use the sound box to create the noise. And,
it's actually Kill Ma.
Doesn't Part 5 have like a variation where it's like ta 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 or something like that?
It's a breast reference, tatas.
Well, what about because both Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, they had their sort of, even though, I mean, Alice Cooper was he wasn't at the peak of his career, in the late 80s when Friday the 13th 6 came out. But, they both had their sort of mainstream soundtracks. I mean, let's talk about, Alice Cooper with Friday the 13th. Let's talk about, Dawkins with the Nightmare on Elm Street. Which one of those was more sort of prolific in its day? Or which one of those do you guys prefer? And go ahead.
That's not fair for me, because Dawkins my favorite hair band from the 80s. So I love that song because it's Dawkins.
There it is.
But it's not Nightmare.
Cooper,
it's the band.
Cooper was on a comeback because he was a superstar in the 70s. But then alcoholism and drug abuse got to him, and he ended up in therapy and rehab for a couple of years. And Constrictor, which is the album the song was on, I believe, was his comeback. So we were happy to see him back at the same time, but Dokken was kind of a new up-and-coming, trying to make a big break. They'd had a couple albums up, or they weren't like Motley Crue status, you know, they weren't like the headliners. Technically, I prefer Dream Warriors as a song, but it was good to see Alice Cooper, and I thought he fit in with Friday the 13th really well and the way they did the video. But there again, though, the Nightmare video, I'm going to have to give the Dream Warriors video, props over the Friday video, just because I thought they captured the essence of Nightmare better in that video, and I like Dokken better than the Cooper song. So on that one, you got me.
I don't.
Okay.
Well, again, I don't want to argue with my own side. I don't know. Like, judging like how the video encapsulated like the source material is hard to say, because maybe the director for the Nightmare for the Dokken video, for whatever reason, like to draw upon the Nightmare mythos, whereas the dude who was doing the Alice Cooper video just wanted to make the stupid thing they did, where it's like a movie theater and a couple.
And they had Alice Cooper swinging on a vine like Tarzan and stuff.
Yeah,
that's
stupid,
something
right,
I really can't defend as far as you had actual props and scenes and interaction in the dream world with Dokken and Freddy. So on that one, I got to concede. Right. That's one.
Okay, here's a good comparison. What the piano theme did for Halloween, Violins did for Friday the 13th. Mic drop. Bam.
Mic drop, give me a break. It was already done in Psycho.
Oh.
That's where the violins come from.
Oh, okay. Well, actually,
Halloween is derivative of Suspiria. So.
Okay. Well, let's move on from this criteria. I want to remind everybody out there who's watching. Let us know your thoughts. Tweet them at us at TSF Nation. Leave them in the comment section of the video. Come over to the live chat on the sausagefactoryshow.com. Also, let us know who you think is winning this debate. Go to the live chat on the sausagefactoryshow.com. Scroll down. There is a poll there. Let me do an update here. See who is in the lead. As of right now, as of this moment, it is pretty tight. It is a 58% to 42% lead.
Oh.
It is.
Are you ready for Freddy?
Very close. very, very close. So go over to the Friday the 13th is in the lead by 2.
That's enough to win the presidency.
So if you can, and if you've already voted, you can vote again. I've got it set up 1 vote per hour. Let us know who is winning this debate. Your vote counts. This is the only time in your life where your vote will count. so make that vote count, people. Make that vote count. I want to take a break. Let's take a moment and decompress. And I want to turn the floor over to Ork. Now, Ork has become such an integral and beloved part of the Sausage Factory that Ork's Corner, his own personal segment, is just an absolute behemoth. So we've decided to give Ork a second solo, just all Ork, okay? A solo Ork segment, a second one, entitled Ork's Dank Meme of the Week, in which Ork tells us about the dankest memes he's seen this week. So Ork, the floor is yours. Give us the dankness.
Goes out to my memesters around the web, bro. 4chan shutting down. We ain't got no time to slow down. All right, bitch? Here we go. All right. And Soviet Russia, horror movie kill you. Big meme. We got it?
Is that it?
No? Did I get the meme? Okay. Well, you know what? Okay, fine.
So a little underwhelmed, Ork.
Underwhelmed.
What was it?
Well, you know what? Okay.
Wait,
Russia kills people. What was it?
And Soviet Russia, horror movie kill you.
Wait, what the fuck just happened?
What just happened was we saw the birth and death of Ork's Dank Meme of the Week.
Not everything works.
That's what happened. Oh God.
Well, boys, we had a good run. Let's wrap this shit up.
Or I expect you are our meme expert. You dropped the ball, man. Come on. I told you to bring the dank game.
Here's another meme. All right, gonna pull a Trump.
All
Nope.
right, all right.
He had less
Nope.
episodes than Viva Laughlin.
Oh.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Are you doing some sort of
on
Andy Kaufman
Orcs.
thing here, or?
Some people don't understand the memes. All right, they don't understand the memes. It's okay.
On Orc's behalf, I want to apologize to everyone in Sausage Factory Nation. And I also want to add that Orcs, the
Medication
thoughts,
will be adjusted accordingly.
Orc's medication will be adjusted, and his views do not represent that of the Sausage Factory or any of the companies associated with the Sausage Factory or Sausage Factory LLC. So
We're an Inc. and a LLC.
that's just how powerful we are. We're a juggernaut. A juggernaut. Move on. Let's get back into the debate at hand. How are you guys?
All right, let's go.
Let me ask you guys this: how are you guys feeling about the debate?
I'm feeling good.
Fucking easy.
We're winning.
As
good to
I
be winning.
said in the chat, this is like Sausage Factory Civil War.
Another meme feels good, man. You know.
Let's actually see what's going on out in Sausage Factory Nation, because we've got a lot to sift through. In
Hang
Sausage
on,
Factory
wait.
Nation.
Shout out, Vape Nation. Real talk. Like my dog. Vape Nation.
Vape Nation is a thing.
The fattest clowns.
Let's see. Max
House on
Punishment says
fire.
Mike is laying down some wisdom tonight. In which I replied, "Well, that's why we call Mike the Professor." Max Punishment said, "I thought he got that nickname for his philandering with co-eds," and that was part of it. That was certainly part of it. Let me give a couple of
Land down
shout
those
outs.
Fat clouds.
The fattest clowns.
Let me give a couple of shout outs here. Cole is Gay is watching. How are you doing tonight, buddy? Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it.
Keep the meme alive.
Yes. Our
Got a
buddy.
meme to dream, Cole.
Phallic enough for you?
Vape Nation.
The Creepy Tar Heel is watching with us tonight. How are you doing, buddy? Our buddy Claire's watching with us tonight. How are you? A lot of familiar faces and a lot of new, faces. A lot of familiar names and a lot of new names in the chat tonight. So very cool to see we got some tonight, as well as some old supporters of the show. We appreciate all the support. Of course, you guys are. Nick Mays tweets at us, and he says Freddy's kill count for all 9 films is 42. Jason Voorhees' kill count for 12 films is 196, including Freddy.
Oh, quadruple?
Boom.
Wait, did I hear that again?
Freddie winked at the end.
I'm not going to
Quality
let some
over quantity.
punk ass in New Line determine what the hell's going on.
Of course, they're not going to let their little bitch boy go out with a little wink.
Yeah.
Quality
See-
over quantity. Wins every time.
Which there is fucking none of.
Claire tweets at us. She says, "Hey guys, Claire here. Freddy for the win. The first Friday the 13th is still one of my faves, but overall, Nightmare is a better series."
Mm-hmm.
She didn't
Go
think that until
vote
she
on the
heard our
website,
brilliant
Claire.
debate.
Vote a bunch of times.
Claire unfollowed.
Joseph Purdue's watching with us tonight. He's tweeted to us. He says MPAA raped the Friday the 13th movies.
More excuses.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Persecution. Woohoo.
Austin Carden tweets at us. He says, "Just now watching the show, about to get some Mellow Yellow going, and also it's almost Friday. Let's get this party started."
Shout out to Rambo, real talk. Miller
It is
always got one in his
almost
fucking hand. I knew it.
Phil tweets at us. He says, "Friday the 13th is the better series, better kills, and more." You know what I'm talking about.
Ooh.
Cocaine.
More weed.
More cocaine. More coke.
More
Exactly. More
cocaine,
cocaine.
more everything.
Notable actors, talent.
Notable actor. John Saxon, son.
Kevin Bacon. Get
And
the
you
fuck
talk
out
about
of here.
Friday the
Arrow.
13th borrowing from Giallo films. Yeesh.
I give Mike that. That's a good line.
Max Punishment in the live chat on the website goes, the unchecked vitriol and contentiousness of this debate has caused me to lose faith in the entire system. I've now,
We're just
I agree.
passionate.
I agree, man. I don't like half you guys anymore.
well, let's go ahead. Let's dive back in. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. We've had an interesting, very heated debate, but we knew that was going to happen. We knew that was going to happen, and we've still got quite a few criteria to go. Let's move on and let's talk about which series had the most prolific pop culture impact. And Nightmare on Elm Street contingent, I'm going to let you guys go first. Go ahead. Cameron or
Cameron here.
Cameron appears to be MIA. I'm not sure if we've had a Google Plus issue or not.
Probably.
It might be his recurring problem.
Okay. Well, let me. Okay. Well, go ahead, Cole.
Pop culture. I think it's pretty obvious. You know, it barely needs to be debated really about which one has the bigger pop culture impact. In that one, I certainly acknowledge the impact that Friday the 13th has had, but it's only part of a greater whole of slashers. Whereas everything that Freddy brings is part of its own little offshoot, kind of separate from slashers. All the things they brought to us, pretty much anything that you want to say is iconic about Friday the 13th is just a slightly different thing. Oh, he's got a different mask. You know, it's got maybe some different kills, I suppose, but it's all part of the same family tree, whereas things that are iconic about Freddy stand out and are completely unique, and you don't really compare them to anything else. You know, the way he dresses, the way he talks, the way he looks, the way he kills, all those things. Whereas, I mean, what's the biggest pop culture impact that Friday the 13th has? Well, it's the realization that a hockey mask is kind of scary.
I don't know. I think Friday the 13th is responsible for all the slew of slasher films that came after it. Sure, Halloween started it, but it was Friday the 13th that ran with it. The success of Friday the 13th showed people that it was a gold mine that you could just mine indefinitely, at least for the next 5 years. Pop culture, see, Friday the 13th earned its pop culture reference through hard work. What was the kill count again? I mean, Jason earned that shit. He put in the work. Freddy whored himself out. He was doing birthday parties by the time of part 6. I mean, come on. They had the Freddy pajamas. I covered that earlier.
Had to be close to the kids.
I mean, you say that Jason's just another slasher. I mean, Friday the 13th is the slasher franchise. I mean, that's its impact. It took what, obviously, you know, birthed by Halloween, but, you know, we talk about Friday the 13th as much as we do is because, I mean, basically every year in the 80s, you had a different film to look forward to. Friday the 13th was an event. Every single year on a Friday the 13th throughout the year, you know, you had a new film to look forward to. And then I think just, you know, you have to look at its overall impact where, again, the hockey mask is Jason. The sound, the music is Jason. You make that sound, people know what you're talking about. And again, it's not to say that if you don't show someone like a glove with knives, they know what that means. But I mean,
there aren't gloves with knives in other movies that I'm aware of, and if they are, they were just copying.
Right. Well, maybe it's original. I don't dispute that it's original, but I mean, we're talking about the overall impact. I just think that Jason probably has a greater awareness. I think people are more aware of his franchise and, you know, just common tropes that people think of when they think of, you know, slasher movies in the 80s. They point to Friday the 13th. They don't point to Nightmare.
Well, I agree with all of the points
they
you're
do.
making. It's certainly more common, definitely more common, and I think your quantity over quality argument speaks for itself. You know, there certainly were more movies coming out. You're right. Every year it was an event, just like how, you know, the last 10 years or whatever, every year the next Paranormal Activity was an event. Wow, that's a great comparison. But so it just shows you how starved people were for their events. It doesn't really have much to do with how good they actually were. It was just something that came around at a certain time of year and people went to see it. But apparently not that many people, because as has already been established, these films were not exactly box office gold.
Hold on a second, though. The Nightmare films did the same thing when they came out. 84 was the original. 85 was part 2. Pretty sure, was it 80? I think it was, actually, I think they took a break for 2 years to do... No, I think it was the same thing. I think it was like every year. Maybe there was a
Hey.
more than a year gap in the middle somewhere.
87 for part 3.
Hey, you guys.
Okay.
Let's just be honest here. Friday the 13th was a tax write-off for Paramount, and Nightmare on Elm Street built up New Line Cinema so we could get Lord of the Rings.
Because they were the only ones that would take a chance on the franchise. They had to mortgage the house to get the fucking thing made, and they couldn't even finish it right. And come on, look at 1 through 6 on both sides.
Because Paramount finished it right with part 8. Yeah.
What was it? Part 5 of
Took a boat,
Nightmare 5
shoved
came
it on
out
his ass.
10 months after part 4. They
Well,
weren't
let me
cutting, punching them out.
I'm sorry.
let me
What
ask you
movie
guys this. Let me ask
to a
you
little
guys.
boy after toxic waste went to New York City for some reason.
Oh,
Let me
yeah, and
ask
you have
you
to
guys
put on 3D glasses so you can enter the dream world.
3D
And
is
see
better
the-
than a naked
dream
little boy
snakes.
in a sewer.
Part 6 is Cinema Gold.
Let me ask you guys this. Hold on one second. Let me ask you guys this. Which series crossed over into pop culture first, and which one had a more had a bigger impact on pop culture? Someone in the chat mentioned Freddy Krueger was all over MTV.
Right.
I think Mike mentioned Jason was on Arsenio Hall. Which one had the more considerable pop culture impact in its day?
Well, considering Friday the 13th was what, on film number 4 when the first Nightmare film came out, it was already in the pulp culture mindset. Everybody already knew
They were
Jason
ending it.
was-
They were ending it. The final chapter.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that Nightmare. I mean, I don't know if we're just having a discussion or debate at this point, but I think in its moment, you can make. I think it's almost undebatable that Freddy probably had the greater, he was all over the place. He was on MTV. He was, VJing videos. But I mean, if you're saying just in the moment, okay, Freddy wins. But I think if you're talking about longevity, I think there's a greater recall, a greater cultural remembrance of, again, those iconic symbols, the hockey mask, the machete, the old summer camp where you're in danger. I think Friday the 13th kind of it's a sprint for them. I'm sorry, it's a marathon for Friday the 13th, and whereas Freddy kind of, he burned hot for the back half of the 80s, and then like Jason, he burned out too.
I think that's completely true. But
Mike brought up a very hold on.
Is more
I'm
more.
going to segue into exactly where you're going.
Okay.
Mike brought up an interesting point. By the time Freddy didn't really hit the mainstream until Nightmare 4.
Yeah.
By that time, Friday the 13th was already on its 6th, 7th film at that point already, 5th or 6th film at that point. So Nightmare on Elm Street was a newer series. So let me pose this question to you guys, and let's get back into the debate format here. I'm going to start with the Nightmare crew and then move over to the Friday crew. Which series has the most longevity? And by that I mean which series started to lose steam sooner, and which series is more relevant today? Nightmare side, I'm going to start with you.
Who wants to take it?
I'll start, I guess. Nightmare is certainly more relevant today. Again, for the not to be so repetitive, but I just mean again the things that made it stand out and be unique. I think I agree with the things that Eric said about the standbys and stuff that makes Friday the 13th enduring and make people remember it. But again, these standbys are sort of they're not very specific. They're just more. They're more vague and they're more universal, and they have less to do with the series itself than it has to do with, again, the overarching family of slashers, the things that people remember, The Woods. I don't think Friday the 13th is the movie that made everybody afraid of the woods. I think maybe it brought some of it back, sure. And it certainly did the camp thing. I can't deny that. And then, of course, you got Sleepaway Camp and things, I'm sure that was somewhat an imitation of that. But again, I just think the stuff that makes Friday the 13th that makes it enduring are probably less interesting and less impactful as a whole. They're just again, their archetypes and their tropes, and they have less to do with the series specifically or anything that the series did that well, really. Whereas all the stuff that is remembered about Freddy is really uniquely Freddy, is really uniquely that series, and stands on its own, and it's more memorable in that sense to me, and that it I don't know which one is, you could say, is more enduring. Maybe Friday is more enduring, but that's because it's the safer series. It's the one that took the less risks. It's the one that was more repetitive. It was the one that never strayed too far from its formula.
They called it a McDonald's cheeseburger, that you knew what you were getting with each installment.
I'm not trying to. I can't make the argument that all the Nightmare on Elm Street films are good, because they're not. But they all stand uniquely apart from each other. And I know the other team wants to say, well, so do the Fridays, but that's only to the big fans, really. They'll say, oh, well, in this one this happens, and this one that one happens, but they're not that different. Come on, people, they're really not. Whereas even when they fell on their face, maybe with stuff they did in like part 2 and part 5, at least it made them stand out from each other. I never mix up any of those movies when I think about them. And nowadays, because I'm more horror savvy, I don't mix up the Friday the 13th. But when I was younger, I sure as hell did, because there was less to make them stand out for me.
Well,
which series? Okay,
the Elm Street films, when they came out, were getting better reviews. They're getting better box office, and that was for a reason. Because they looked at those movies and they could look at it as just a dumb slasher, but just as more to it than that. So because that, like nowadays, whenever people throw a list out on scariest movies, they bring up Elm Street. They never bring up Friday the 13th or the sequels. They'll bring up Nightmare on Elm Street. How many times do they have a list of scariest movies, best horror films of the 80s? You'll see Elm Street on there, but you won't see Friday the 13th.
But the only one you'll see is the original. The only one you'll see is the original.
Part of it. It's still part of it.
But
none of Friday
the
13th,
original.
But Elm Street is on it. None of the Friday 13th, but even one Elm Street, that's still 1 against 0. And
you
also
could say the first one was scary, Friday.
Well, I mean, you could say it, but I'm just saying we're talking about massive pop culture. The general audience doesn't. There's a lot of people who don't.
Part 2 is scary for different reasons.
I have the advantage of having been there when Friday was at its apex as far as popularity goes, and it was quite popular with my age group. And then Nightmare kind of came along when we were getting older, and it was less of a big deal to us anyway. So maybe it's a point of view. I mean, to me, Friday was consistent. You knew what you were getting, and it was usually pretty good. With Nightmare, they kind of, like you said, that it burned out really fast. It was like they hoarded him out. They had a comedic talking villain that they could promote, whereas Jason didn't really have that kind of a personality going on. He was just a slasher. So yeah, they exploited Freddy's comedic, as you saw as the movies went on. They got funnier and funnier and got farther away from what they started out as.
But that helps with the longevity, because people remember his personality, and people remember his quotes, and people remember his dialogue to this day. His quotes and his personalities entered pop culture. Well, you can't do that for Jason because he didn't have any personality. He had no quotes. But people still remember the quotes and personality of Freddy, not just in the first film, but in some of the later sequels as well. And that helps with the longevity of Freddy over Jason.
Which series burned out first? Which series started to hit the skids sooner? And I think Nightmare is an interesting example, because part 1 was so enormous. Then they fumbled part 2, but then they came back with part 3, which was huge. So you sort of had an up, down, then way up, and then part 4 just shot it through the stratosphere. And then of course 5 and 6 just tanked it. With Friday the 13th, you had this build 1, 2, 3, 4, all of them built and built and built. Of course, part 5 kind of started that. But which one do you think had the most longevity as far as it didn't burn out as quick?
Well, obviously, I mean, even though I'm the Nightmare on Elm Street side, I think Friday the 13th only because it went the longest and it basically found a formula and stuck to it. And Nightmare on Elm Street, it was not until Dream Warriors that they figured out like, oh, well, this is the type of nightmare film we should go with. And so they, there's less Elm Street films than there are Friday the 13th films. So I mean, obviously there's more longevity with Jason.
Yeah, and they started earlier. But yeah, I think that's why too.
You've got a
Like I
long
said, it
period.
relied on a formula and simple standbys and stuff, and tried less, so it was more enduring. I think just because it just stuck to what it did, and never really branched out that much.
And in fact, once they got away from Camp Crystal Lake, people say that's when the series fell apart.
Mike, Eric, what about your rebuttal? Mike, Eric, rebuttal.
Friday the 13th owned the early 80s. I mean, there were a lot of knockoffs that were good. Some were good and varying quality. But, Halloween started it off. Even Halloween 2 came out in 81, but it wasn't as popular, really, as Friday 2.
It tried to be Friday the 13th. Bloodier kills, more kills.
Exactly. Friday the 13th changed the landscape of the slasher film by introducing the graphic gore. Then everybody else had to go back and reshoot scenes to put more gore in it to compete with Friday the 13th. Every movie that came out after 80 was in competition with Friday the 13th, not Halloween. Halloween took a big break there for a while. They came out with 3, and that was like people wrote them off, and Friday the 13th was the big thing. And then you got Nightmare comes out. The first film was kind of a quiet film that built a cult following because they self-released it. So it wasn't like when Friday 4 came out, the fanfare and packed theaters. Nightmare on Elm Street was this little film that nobody heard of, and it slowly built. But Friday, I still think, like Pizzow said with the chart, it kept getting better, whereas Elm Street was more choppy because you had the first one and a dip in the second one, back up with the third one, and I thought it was a drop off with 4, 5, and 6, steady decline. Whereas Friday had more of an upward.
Well, and then you have a New Nightmare, though.
I like New Nightmare.
And I agree with Mike's points, but I mean, I can just build right off them. I mean, yeah, Friday the 13th owned the early 80s. Sure, it did. And the late 80s was owned by Nightmare on Elm Street, except then it was going against that. It was going against Friday the 13th, so it was beating it, whereas it didn't exist in the early 80s. So they didn't have that sort of competition.
But let's look at the greater context. So it was because again, we've all watched the documentary, the Crystal Lake, and you even had oh my God, his name's escaping me. But we've all talked about the history of Friday the 13th many times, and the 5th movie, while we all may love it, I mean it's a fun movie to watch. The 5th movie turned off audiences. If the 5th movie had maybe been Jason again, how do we know that maybe the trajectory of that series doesn't change slightly? Because there's a lot of talk about how the 5th movie, the fact that Jason wasn't in it, the fact that it did kind of take that weird sort of almost porno vibe, which again is interesting in its own ways. Like, there weren't as many people who showed up for part 6 because they'd been burned by part 5. And
Hang
so,
on, can I get a real talk?
Real
sure,
talk.
Rest in peace, Danny Steinman.
yes, a visionary.
I agree.
One of the greatest casting directors of all time, too.
But I mean, that's not. I mean, he put a bunch of breasts in his film. I mean, it's not like genius. I mean, it's kind of a low blow as far as like.
I call it.
As far as
I was gonna say I fundamentally disagree.
you're trying to put
One
an
man
ass
with the
on
finger
tits by
on the
showing
pulse.
tits. I mean, yeah. I mean,
I think-
we all like it, but
It's his only decent film.
If I can't have the real Jason, then give me tits.
Right.
I can.
There you go.
He made one decent film. I don't
Make
think
that
that's-
meme out to the satisfaction.
I mean,
I
the
like
5th
Savage
movie-
Streets too.
That,
But even in
Denny's
No, I
Fire-
don't.
Fire
I've
is
had
that-
memorable characters though that kind of elevated it above. I mean, you watch it now, and you got the 2 rednecks, the guy in a motorcycle. You got Demon. I mean, there's nothing like that in Elm Street 4, 5, or 6.
Ooh,
mean,
baby. Ooh,
Yeah,
baby.
even 5 was still.
Which film had the best enchiladas?
2 annoying rednecks and a guy who needed the shit. That's great.
Well, let me
Versus
Bravo.
Cockroach
Real,
Girl.
I could understand it.
well, let me ask you guys this.
At least it worked out. It's better
and
The nurse in Dream Warriors has better tits.
because like
What?
Mike said, Friday the 13th was hugely impactful on the early 80s. Nightmare on Elm Street was very impactful on the late 80s. Keeping that in mind, which one had the greater impact on the horror genre?
Elm Street, because Wes Craven's New Nightmare led to Scream, and then Scream impacted the 90s.
Yeah, but without Friday the 13th, you wouldn't have Scream or Nightmare on Elm Street or
No.
Without
Halloween.
Psycho, you wouldn't have
No.
Halloween.
But without Wes
Scream-
Craven's New
Halloween,
Nightmare,
you
Scream was
literally would not
influenced
have
by
Scream.
Halloween, not Friday the 13th.
I mean, we can make
but
those
you wouldn't have
arguments.
Halloween 2 without Friday the 13th.
Okay, I'll turn it over to the Friday side here in a minute. Here, just
So
shortly.
give the
Nightmare, go for it. And how did the Nightmare series impact the late 80s going forward?
Well, I would say that Nightmare on Elm Street brought in surrealism into the horror genre, and it also, like, I mean, yes, it is a little bit more fanciful, but then that's what encouraged people like Stuart Gordon and Brian Usna to go into those directions, like Society and Reanimator, and that opened up Stan Winston with Pumpkinhead and all that. Those movies would never have been made or even looked at if we were still on the serial killer angle.
The whole genre was changing from the slasher formula. You know, it turned into something I don't think, many of us like in the early 90s, but, at least, Nightmare on Elm Street was there to ride that.
I mean, I
Alone.
think that the pretenders of Nightmare on Elm Street, I think, are less successful at what they're doing than like the pretenders to Friday the 13th. Like The Burning is a pretty good movie. The first Sleepaway Camp, again, cheesy, but hell of an ending.
My Bloody
And,
Valentine.
interesting.
The
That's
Prowler.
the only good
Sure.
part of the movie. Otherwise,
Because
Yeah,
it's
the
easy.
the only
It
good
was
part
not
of
easy to
Sleepaway
make a
Camp
film
is
that
the
good.
ending.
Okay, well, Friday the 13th side, make your point for how impactful Friday the 13th was on the horror genre in the early 80s and moving forward.
Okay, so they make Halloween, and it's a big hit. And John Carpenter planned to move on from that, and he was going to do Escape from New York or whatever. And then Friday the 13th comes out. It's a huge hit. They make a lot of money. And, the movie company says, but before you make Escape from L.A., we want you to make Halloween 2 because there's some more money to be made here. Friday the 13th proved that. So after 1980, all the slasher films that came out were because of the success of Friday the 13th. They were Halloween was a one-off, like Black Christmas. It wasn't meant to be a series. It was just meant to be a one-off. But Friday came out, huge success. Next thing you know, you got Happy Birthday to Me, My Bloody Valentine, The Prowler, The Burning.
Yep.
These are all great films that wouldn't have been made. Just Before Dawn is another one, without the existence of
Great
Friday the
film.
13th. And
Kind of
even Elm Street wouldn't have
Not
been
all
made.
great films.
Without Black Christmas, you wouldn't have Halloween.
And without Psycho, you want to have Peeping Tom.
Friday was the
Without
film that
Universal
put that type
Monsters,
of-
Nosferatu
Yeah.
and fucking.
Friday was the one that elevated that type of film and got them made. It was
I did
its
see My
success
Bloody
that
Valentine, but I don't know about
influenced
the
what
others.
came after it.
Right.
And like somebody said, the imitators of A Nightmare on Elm Street were pretty pathetic compared to the imitators of Friday the 13th.
And
Yeah, I
Jay,
have to
without
include Nightmare.
Nosferatu, you wouldn't have had Genghis Khan.
And I
I think
I have to
Reanimator and
include Nightmare
Pumpkinhead are better
in,
than The Prowler.
Nightmare
Prowler
wouldn't have.
sucks.
Ooh.
It's got good gore, that's it. Without the gore, Prowler could kiss my ass.
It's still better than Freddy 6.
Got the Savini stamp.
Freddy
I don't
said-
know.
That's better.
But the point is, though, Friday was the more influential on the overall world of movies, especially horror films.
Okay. I was going to bring up another sort of area within that criteria but now I've
Well,
And
I
they're still
Great job
making
moderating,
slasher
Joel.
films in the modern time. How many Dream Warrior movies are they making? I mean, there's still slasher films that come out every year because of what Friday the 13th did in the 80s.
Yeah, but they didn't invent the slasher film either.
Well,
No,
because of
they-
Halloween Chainsaw Massacre did it.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty sketchy argument to just say that slasher still coming out now has something to do with that. I mean, it was responsible for the boom in the early '80s, to be sure, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can credit it for
I don't.
the endurance of slashers in all those years beyond.
I was just saying it elevated the popularity of the genre more than Nightmare on Elm Street did because you don't get as many nightmare-esque films as you do slashers.
Well, because it's hard to
That's because
copy
it's hard
a
to
film that's so intricate. You can't create another Robert Englund.
Yeah. I'd say the fact that
Throw a mask on some doofus and put him out there to chop somebody
Exactly.
up with
You
a
one,
could
one is
chainsaw.
You
one
could
is
throw the makeup
much,
on Jim Carrey and have the same result.
one is
I
much
agree,
more
Bloody Murder is a
imitatable
great
than
movie.
the other, and I don't think that makes it a good thing. I think the fact that it's a much harder to imitate any of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies is a sign of their strength.
Sure, you just have some guy in some burn makeup cracking jokes. Fucking
No,
with a few
no.
people, and then in a movie,
No,
And
that's
yet we haven't-
that's
and
not
yet
true
we
at all.
haven't
Look
seen
at the
those.
remake. Look
It's
at the
so
remake.
easy, you say, but we
That
haven't.
is true.
The
You say-
remake.
Yeah, which remake is better?
Well,
No.
you
Then
say
you would get sued.
it's
No,
so
but-
easy, but where are these slew of imitators then?
The
Because,
remake,
I don't see
of
them.
Elm Street proved that you couldn't just stick anybody in a mask and a switch and a
Hey,
sweater.
fuck you, Cameron. Mara
Maybe it
Ruiz
proves
fucking-
that type of film just doesn't have the longevity.
All right, guys. All right, let's move on from this criteria. This criteria is closed. I don't want anybody to. I don't want
Gloves are
anybody.
coming off, man.
I know the gloves are coming off. Gloves are coming off. Let's talk about which series. Both series had their own TV spin-offs. Let's talk about which series had the better television spin-off. And I'll start with the Nightmare contingent. Cameron, go ahead.
Oh God.
Yeah, there you go. Defend that.
Lord Petty, we kill Lord Petty by cutting her head off. So
Well,
there
I
you
will.
go.
I will
Cut
say this.
Tank Girl's head.
I will say. I will
cut her
say
head
this.
off by a fucking real.
I will say the Friday the 13th TV series as a whole is better, but it doesn't have anything to do with the series.
Oh, wait. I just heard for a half an hour how it was cookie cutter and all they ever did was the same shit over and over again. And now they do something different, but it doesn't have anything to do with the series.
Well, they
They made a series and just stamped that title on for marketing. That's all it was. It had nothing to do with them going off in a new direction.
I think it is better, to be honest.
Well, I haven't watched it
I guess
since
come on,
I
man.
was 8 years old.
It depends. I mean, it depends what you're looking for. I kind of
Can't deny
find
the
the
truth.
Nightmare series interesting because it's kind of like, you think of the movies almost like the Nightmare movies almost like a Star Wars movie, but like it's interesting to watch, like to read a Star Wars book or like a Star Wars comic book. This was kind of like the ongoing adventures of Freddy, and he tortures other people. I shouldn't be making this argument for you. It just
okay.
like again, it depends what you're looking for. Like it's interesting in that it's the broader world of Freddy, and he's got like other people involved, and there's other
I
things.
mean, it
he
does begin with an episode directed by Toby Hooper, and it did
Which is
kind of-
better than any episode of Friday 13th.
You're probably right. However,
Can you name one episode of Friday 13th?
No, but I will say that
One
you had
with
direct,
the lamp.
but
The
you did
lamp was haunted as fuck.
Freddy got his ass kicked by the Crypt Keeper.
But the Friday 13th TV series did have directors like David Cronenberg and Adam Agoyan directing episodes. So even though I don't remember their episodes, they had obviously
They were so
a lot of
good you
talent.
don't remember them.
Well,
I haven't watched them since I was 8
Remember
years
Roby.
old.
Yeah.
I
All
need
right, they both sucked ass. Next.
at least Freddy was in the Nightmare on Elm Street series. I mean, yeah, he was just he had just introduced the story,
And-
but
And
He
they
shot
talk-
all the scenes for an entire series in an afternoon.
and
He was
they
really
talk-
involved.
Hey, they've talked about rebooting this Friday the 13th Jason Voorhees series for like 5-6 years. It keeps getting canceled, right? So obviously there's no story there.
More involved than Jason was in his series. Oh, Nun and Zilch.
See, they did something different, which I heard for hours how they never did anything different.
No,
now
they
they
made
do
it
something
a series
different,
and
and
they
it's
stamped the
bad.
name on it.
it's not different. It's nothing to do with the original series. I mean,
Yeah.
Well,
didn't
okay,
tie
fine,
it
put
in.
Twilight Zone
Like, the
and
character's
football
not
Friday
there.
13th.
But
Friday-
you don't get
Friday
to have
the
it both
13th
ways, though. You
side.
can't.
Friday the 13th side. Go ahead, Eric.
I
Defend
just-
your
you
series.
can't. You don't get to have it both ways. Where like you argued away that the times that the Nightmare series fumbled, well, it was because they tried something different. They tried to be bold.
It's not
Like,
trying something different.
the entire concept of the show is nothing like the original series, though. That's
But
It was
is
a
that a
spin-off.
bad?
apples and
Was
oranges,
that a
man.
bad thing though? Was that a bad thing?
No,
Yeah.
I enjoyed the TV series.
there's some debate.
I mean,
for you.
yeah, I mean, no, it's not.
We're all talking about shit we don't like anyway. Like we're defending stuff we all hate. So
Yeah, I mean,
We're
I don't like
arguing
either of them
quality.
good.
and it's
I think-
weird too because like the Friday the 13th series, though, I think is interesting in that it kind of has an impact in of itself. In that, following on, and again, I'm telling you guys stuff you know because you've read the book and everything. But I mean, like following on from like Star Trek: The Next Generation, it was kind of like another very popular syndicated show. and it was really pushing boundaries, and it like created writing campaigns from like a bunch of Christians, yelling about violent content and demon content. So I mean, from that perspective, you could make the case the Friday the 13th show is maybe more impactful simply because there was more interest in it, and it like it had 4 seasons, I think.
Versus
I think
4 episodes?
Well, yeah, I think Friday had like a season or maybe 2 seasons, but he didn't go as long. But the Friday
4
13th
seasons
had a
that
little bit
no
of
one
like-
remembers.
It lasted 4 seasons versus what? 4 episodes? I mean, come on.
I remember the pilot.
3
Do
seasons.
you remember any episodes of Friday 13th?
I haven't watched that show in 30 years. Why would I?
Yeah, I don't know. It's
I didn't watch it when it was on. But look, like
I'm arguing for my side. I'm not going to try extra hard on this one.
We're trying to argue which one's the shiniest turd. I
Yeah,
understand
but
that.
I'm an 8-year-old kid.
I
I'm
think
tuning in
Friday
to
the
see
13th
Jason.
is the shiniest turd when it comes to the TV shows.
Like, and there is no Jason. At least when I tune in to see Freddy's Nightmares, Freddy's in there.
At least somebody tried to create something different and they actually cared about it, whereas nobody gave a shit about
That's
Freddy's
bullshit.
Nightmare.
Yeah, they tried
That's such
something new.
bullshit. Anybody caring about anything is
It's all the same. It's new. I mean, come on. You guys are
Okay,
killing me.
I think we can all agree that both series weren't great.
Yeah.
So it's
Guys,
kind of
give it
difficult.
growth.
It's kind of difficult to debate, like Mike said, which one is the
How did that
Less
series
stinky
run for
turd, I
3
guess?
years, man? Ran for 3 years. Who the fuck was watching that garbage?
How long did Freddy's Nightmares run? What was that?
Friday
What,
the
season and a
13th
half?
series. Friday the 13th series did have
Okay.
good ratings. They had very good ratings.
But
Like
I
it or
don't
not, it was
know if that has
successful
anything to
of
do
the
with
two.
the popularity of the movie.
Right.
There's not really any way to know
They-
that.
They cut funding every episode on Freddy's Dead, which I'm sure Friday the 13th had a similar fate. But they said that the entire cast of that show went over to Tales from the Crypt and saved it from being canceled because of money. They,
Well, yeah,
they
the
were
Freddy
able to cut
series
that
couldn't
budget.
afford a giant Freddy penis to eat people. So I mean, it just wasn't.
Again, I'm on board already.
Well, here's the thing, though. The Friday the 13th series easily could have been done as a TV show with that kind of mood because it is kind of realistic, like Mike was saying. But you know what? No, New Line, even though they pulled the budget, they still tried to do something fantastic with the Freddy's Nightmares. It may not have been great, but they were really pushing it and trying new things. Yes, the Friday the 13th series is
Which
different.
Is a good thing, you're saying.
Yeah, no, well, but what all they did was Paramount just made a series and just stuck Friday the 13th on top of it. It had nothing to do with anything.
Okay. I mean,
Freddy
I think
was in
we
the
could
show
go down
'cause
a
he
real
could talk.
dark hole here about like how the respective franchises kind of like abused the franchise and abused their central characters. I'm not sure. I mean, again, this is going to kind of take it into an area where it's going to become indefensible in either case.
Exactly.
But
But which one was more successful? End of story.
Well, okay. Let's close out this criteria. It's
Thank
up to
fucking God.
Sausage Factory Nation. It's up to Sausage Factory Nation to figure out which one was more successful based on our arguments. So, Factory Nation, if you guys have not voted on who you think is winning the debate, go to the sausagefactoryshow.com, go to the live chat, scroll down to the poll, and vote now. We've really only got one criteria left, but I've noticed a couple of people, Ultraman in the live chat mentioned which series had the better Blu-ray releases. I mean, does anybody want
I have no
to?
idea.
That's
That's hard too because Nightmare was like in double disc, with two to a Blu-ray, and even though Friday the 13th did do that, Friday the 13th also released like the cut versions of several of their films on Blu-ray when the DVDs were unrated. So, and they both sucked.
Yeah,
and
it's
then an
kind of
early DVD
uninspiring
you
on
had
either
from
side.
Crystal Lake to Manhattan set, and you had the really old school Nightmare on Elm Street box set that came out.
Yeah.
I remember
That
both
actually had
of
some really cool, like you had to like navigate through menus and like look.
Oh, yeah,
again,
that
I
was
shouldn't
pretty
argue
cool.
for it, but
those. Yeah.
That was pretty
like
cool.
there was they did some. Well, see, and that was the difference though. And again, this is a separate thing, but like New Line was like 100% behind Freddy, whereas
They needed
Friday
it.
the 13th was always kind of like the redheaded stepchild of Paramount, even though it kept doing really well for them. So I think sometimes when we like challenge story decisions or actors leaving or not getting paid enough, Friday the 13th was still churning out decent movies, even though they kept getting their legs cut out from under them.
So Freddy wins.
Paramount, Paramount did not give Friday the 13th the love. They treated Friday the 13th like it was a hooker girlfriend or something, and they were embarrassed that she had to make the money and that they had to admit that they had a hooker for a girlfriend. But they made them a lot of money, so they kept her around, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I would definitely say, but New Line would have been nothing without Freddy. Paramount was just fine without Friday the 13th, so that's not really a fair argument. I mean, New Line was holding on to Freddy for dear life, and that's why they
put so
poured
much
him out on everything. That's why he was everywhere, because he had to be everywhere because they needed the money. I don't think it was because I know Bob Shea really enjoyed the because he was the first one that saw the script and thought maybe it could make money. But
who has it now? Does Paramount have the rights again to Friday?
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah,
and they're just doing
Probably
absolutely jack shit with it. Like, I don't understand, because I was looking at the numbers earlier.
They postponed it. They postponed it again.
But
it was scheduled.
It's still making money though. Even the shitty ones were making money. Like,
I think that was more of a reflection of the company than it is the series. Yeah. I mean, that's more of a reflection of what Paramount is versus what Friday the 13th is.
Well, let me ask you guys this, and I'm gonna.
Had Paramount been behind Friday the 13th like New Line was behind Nightmare, then we might have seen some shit. It might actually, wouldn't even be an argument.
Well, let me ask you guys this, and I'm going to ask the team specifically, because Shadow Wolf Entertainment has asked, what's your least favorite Friday and Nightmare film? So I want the Nightmare contingent to tell us what you think your weakest entry is, and I want the Friday contingent to tell us what you think is the weakest Friday entry. So Friday team, what do you think is your weakest entry in the Friday the 13th series?
In my opinion, it's Jason Goes to Hell.
I would agree with that.
Orc?
Wow. 9 or 10. Goes to Hell or Jason X, I'd say. Yeah, they're
between those two.
Yeah,
hold on, but Orc and Jason X, they tried something new and different. I think we have to acknowledge that
must have been their mistake, because they didn't do the same thing. Oh, wait a minute, that's not good either.
Real quick, I like all the Paramount movies. I don't care what people say about the later ones. And Freddy vs. Jason is fun, and I like the remake too.
I just watched part 8
I'll point
recently.
out the changing location isn't really trying something different.
The Friday the 13th remake is good, but it's not rewatchable.
What was the one where they... Remember where he shat that slug out of his mouth over and over again? That was pretty
That's
fucking
Jason
awesome.
Goes to Hell.
That goes to hell.
Okay,
That's
Nightmare
Yeah, I know which one it is.
What is your least favorite? What do you think is the weakest entry in the Nightmare series?
It's clearly Dream Child.
I mean, I would say the remake, but...
Well, okay, if we're going to count that.
Are we including the remake, Piz?
Let's
really don't like Freddy's Dead, but
not include the remake. Just for the argument's sake, let's not include it.
I really don't like Freddy's Dead. I think they overdo stuff with too much backstory.
Yeah, but at least
the problem with it.
but it is watchable. Unlike Dream Child, which I agree with Eric, is unwatchable. And in fact, I don't think any movie by Stephen Hopkins is watchable. So,
not even Predator 2.
You want some candy?
I'll go off of what
Rambo's
Mike
not
said
here,
earlier.
man.
Just 4 and 5, I can barely remember like the whole entire movie. I don't know what it is about them. Like 3 and 6 for A Nightmare on Elm Street, I can remember fairly well. But 4 and 5, it's just like, okay, they happened. That's a thing.
Well, what's fascinating is that, like, after part 4, which was so successful and like in what it did, part 5 of Nightmare is just really dark and dour and not at all fun or entertaining. Like, again, I know I've been criticizing that part of it, but like, again, if you're gonna do that, like, why not follow the success of the movie that just made you like $45 million? Instead, they just like hung around in the basement. Yeah, it was very odd.
The exact opposite of what you're talking about.
Here's what I'm going to ask everybody who's watching the show in the live chat on the YouTube channel. Type in right now who you think won the debate: Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street. Start typing those in now. Tweet at us who you think won the debate: Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th. Or come over to the website on the live chat and vote in the poll on the live chat page who you think won the debate. Let me see what's going on out in Sausage Factory Nation. Andrew Bukowicz, and I apologize if I butchered that name, Andrew, but he sends us a message on the website. The first Nightmare on Elm Street is the best movie, but the Friday the 13th series has more watchable movies. Also, it seems to be a good time capsule, not only 80s, but of American pop culture of the 80s. Will Barber says, while I admit the Nightmare films are better made and of higher quality than most of the Fridays, I do prefer the Friday the 13th franchise. Now, let me throw this out there at you. I don't know if we can debate which films are technically better made films. Is more rewatchable, put it that way. Friday the 13th side, what do you guys think?
Oh, Friday the 13th, no doubt. I mean, sure, you can give the Nightmare on Elm Street, the first film, that's rewatchable. And maybe Dream Warriors, but I got Friday 2, Friday 3, Friday 4. I mean, I could just watch those movies all the time and would reach for one of them before I would reach.
Insert any Paramount movie.
The Orc's got part 2 on a loop.
What is it about those films particularly, Mike, that you find so rewatchable?
The atmosphere. Jason, the character. To me, that's just the more interesting and the more fun to watch. I could put on Friday 2 and just have a good time watching it. And same with Dream Warriors, but to a lesser extent, the rest of the Nightmare films. There's 2 good films in that series, 1 and 3. Friday, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, I mean, even 7 if you kind of open your mind a little bit. That's kind of goofy, but I enjoyed it. It's fun. It's a good time. I could watch part 7 before I'd watch, Dream Child.
And I think part of it is like there's just kind of like an entertaining quality to those movies, like even with the characters. Like, I don't know, they're just like these like weird, goofy, kind of aloof people, and then Jason kills them. And I know that's like been a knock on some of it, that they're kind of forgettable, but you can kind of just jump into those movies and these characters are just kind of really interesting and entertaining. I mean, to me, that's sort of what I think the Friday the 13th remake lost to an extent, is that I sort of hated everybody in that movie except for Jared Padalecki or whatever from Supernatural. But like that kind of lost the fun side. It had a really good, intense, badass Jason, but kind of the other elements that I think made, especially like the first 4 Fridays, good and rewatchable, it was missing. But that again, I think that encapsulates, I think, why I think the Friday films are a little more rewatchable. I think you could also make the case that because they're kind of standalone, you can kind of just jump on one at a time and kind of dive in and have a good time. With the Freddy movies, because there is in some cases a longer story arc, like if you were to just jump in part 4, even though clearly a lot of people did that, that's why it did so well at the box office. Like, I don't know, you're still kind of jumping in mid-story, and I think that kind of turns me away from the Nightmare films. I always have to start at the beginning.
Let me add this for the Nightmare on Elm Street side. It seems like the sentiment from people from Sausage Factory Nation is to concede again that the Nightmare on Elm Street films are better made movies. They just don't have that fun factor that makes them rewatchable.
I disagree with that.
Yeah, I disagree.
And I mean, seriously, like, not even in this debate. Like I would definitely go watch a Nightmare on Elm Street film.
Yeah.
It's like you have hamburger and you have steak.
Okay.
Steak is Friday.
I mean, it's a little
Nightmare is
more.
hamburger.
I mean, it's a little more heady. Come on. I mean, there's a little bit
I
more to
think a
chew
lot of
on
these
there.
people just have an emotional bias. They have some sort of sentiment tied up in this, and that's fine. If I don't win the debate, that's not the end of the world. But still, I think at least some of these people aren't really necessarily being open to being swayed by arguments and are more have made up their minds before.
I feel like this was already decided before we even got started.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've got less films to deal with, and you guys just keep saying the same shit over and over again.
And those tears are salty.
I mean, really, I mean, seriously, I love both franchises. Don't get me wrong. I grew up with both, but I mean, in all seriousness, I would go watch.
What?
I would go watch a Nightmare film.
There's
It's
actually
bullshit.
something to the
Google Plus
characters
is
of Elm
fucking us
Street.
over. See it happen.
I know it's Google Plus's fault.
You're watching it. Goddamn new line, Google Plus, not shame.
Just wait till we tackle the Leatherface saga.
Oh god.
Leatherface
He's
versus
explaining
Chucky
that.
coming
He's
next week.
explaining in this one, and this one I don't fucking know. That's great.
It's a tough argument though, because I mean, it's like again when we talked about this, I thought it was going to be challenging because, and I don't know if the debate's over, if we're just talking or what, but like, I like
Horseshit. I don't care what the votes say. This is bullshit.
I mean,
Fuck the votes.
I like
Shit's rigged.
Nightmare. I like Nightmare, and I think if you were to kind of compare first films in a franchise like head to head, I actually think there's an argument that can be made that Nightmare might even be better than the original Halloween. I'm just going to be bold like that.
Come on.
In terms of like, I think originality, in terms of mood, in terms of scariness, I like the original Nightmare. I think it's very good. It's very bold.
I agree, but the first Halloween, that's like,
Yeah, there's no footprint in the stairs where you can see where Heather Langenkamp needs to put her next foot in Halloween.
I'm just making the
mannequin
case
sinking into
that,
the bed
like,
and a rubber
there
sex
are
doll
really-
going through the
there are
window.
really positive
Let's do
aspects
closing
to it.
I
Let's
don't
do
know where
closing
we're at.
Let's do we're at closing arguments now.
Friday is visceral. It's a visceral experience.
Hold on,
whereas
hold on.
Nightmare-
Hold on.
Bullshit.
Let's do this right. Let's close this thing out right. Let's do the closing arguments. This is your last chance to sway the audience. And you guys are saying that it's lopsided, but there are a lot of people out there defending Nightmare on Elm Street. So I mean, there's a Nightmare on Elm Street fan base out there. So closing arguments, Nightmare, I'll let you guys start first. Go ahead, close. And I'm going to go down the line. I'm going to start with Cameron. Why is Nightmare on Elm Street the better series?
I think it's just more engaging because you can get involved with the characters more. I think the set pieces are extremely inventive, and I love the fact that now looking back at it, it actually has a beginning, a middle, and end to it. It's a complete series. Friday the 13th is just never ending. All it's going to do is, I mean, come on, the rights have reverted back to Paramount, and they've been sitting on it for 6 years. I mean, they won't even crank out another one. That's how bad the series has become.
Yeah, at least people want to see another one.
They keep canceling it. They keep canceling the TV series. So,
The remake killed it. As far as Nightmare goes.
Platinum Dudes killed a lot of those movies, though.
Yes, they did.
Fucking Michael Bay, fucking Google Plus, motherfucker.
I mean, I think it's somewhat like
Listen,
foul
there's no
territory.
debate. There's no debating Platinum Dunes and Michael Bay sucks. We can all agree on that.
Yeah, I'm worried about
The only one they didn't fuck over was Michael Myers, and that's because Dimension owned it. So,
Yeah.
Rob Zombie did a good enough job of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say Rob Zombie fucked it over enough for everybody.
Rambo. What? Rambo. Why was Nightmare on Elm Street the better series? Closing argument.
Okay. Well, my thoughts on it. I think the characters are a bit more established, and the fact that because of the constraints they have Friday 13th, the characters themselves don't really have an arc. It's, they're enjoying their weekend. I can see character arcs, whether it be in the Dream Warriors, where they're kids who have had bad experiences, and then by the end they gotta get together to try to fight something off. Or the fact with Nancy, what happens at the end, getting some strength. Or yes, I enjoy Elm Street 4. I enjoy Lisa Wilcox. I relate to that character of a meek, quiet character that becomes a badass at the end and is able to flourish, is able to get out of her shell. I can't really say that for much of the characters in Friday the 13th films. So I feel the characters, there's a bit more to them than that. I think music-wise, there's just a broader range. Each film has their own different scores, different soundtracks, different music. I think imagination-wise, you still have the slasher elements where if Freddy can just use his glove like he did in the first film, but he has the ability to go much further than Jason. Well, unless Jason just thrusts into space. But Freddy was able to, it's endless with Nightmare on Elm Street. If you did it right, you did Robert Englund, it's endless what you can do, and that's appealing to me because dreams can be anything, while Jason, he's bound by what he can do with implements and so forth. There's only so many ways you can do it, but with Freddy, anything is possible. And having a killer that has a personality. So you have a dark side, you can have a light side, you can have a middle side. I think the first film is much darker side. I think third film is more in the middle. I think the fourth film, yes, is a lighter side. I like there's a range of that. Jason is more about if he's taller or he's fatter or he's got, he's more like Frankenstein or like Ronnie, you fucked up with that shitty, well, not that shitty, but it's Jason and Freddy vs. Jason, or he's got fucking stupid, oh, I got Bambi eyes, where the fuck Ronnie you said, and fucking Freddy vs. Jason, where the fuck that was. And like the Freddy himself, he's much more broader range. You can make it dark if you want, you can make it light if you want, and the kills could be more broader, or they can be more sadistic. You have that range. And just, I think storytelling, you could do more with dreams because of that fantasy element. Because you can have in the real world, which sadly they did try to do on Elm Street, but that's because there's a shitty director who did fucking Smells Like Teen Ass, whatever the fuck music video was for Nirvana. And
that's a great video.
I mean, I like that, but the director sucks.
Yeah.
That's good because the fucking director's an idiot. Samuel Baraz.
Doesn't mean you can do movies.
Go ahead, Stingray. Okay, go.
Yeah,
go
you can
ahead,
do more. Go ahead. No, I was finished.
Okay. Go ahead, Stingray.
In a sea of slasher ripoffs, I think Nightmare on Elm Street really steps out and does something really original and something new, and it just stands on its own. And I think it's the originality, the set pieces, the original kills, the special effects. I think really set it apart, and it's just different. And I really think that's what sets it apart.
Okay, Cole.
Well, we never actually talked about the elephant in the room, which is master of horror, Wes Craven. Sean Cunningham is not a master of horror
Or anything.
or anything else in that matter. Ron Kurtz and I don't know, whatever his name is, Victor Miller. Only hardcore horror people know anything, even know those people's fucking names. And the only thing that really gives Jason credibility is that some of his character was worked on by Tom Savini, if you want to talk about somebody in horror. But I mean, Wes Craven was, he was already at least a cult guy before Nightmare, but Nightmare is what really made him, and it made him for a reason, because it was groundbreaking and it was different and it was good. And he has a lot of accomplishments, but I think it's still the one that people know him the best for. And I don't think that's just because there were a lot of movies in the 80s. I think it's because it was really great quality. And I mean, it's easy enough to argue the idea of somebody, attacking you in your dreams. Probably been used at some point before somewhere, or if he didn't do it, somebody would. But I'm glad he's the one that did it, because I like how he did it, and I love the character Freddy. It's just a really interesting, cool character that is, I just think, more fun to revisit in a lot of ways. And yeah, he's not always on point in all the movies, but I think even in some of the weaker movies, he still has good moments. And I mean, when we're talking about, we're not on here debating some of the greatest films ever made. So I think we have to accept their limitations and accept their faults and minimize them a bit for the sake of the arguments we're making. So yeah, most of these movies, none of them are really oil paintings, but they hit the notes they're supposed to hit as far as being a horror movie and what that's supposed to achieve, whether it's supposed to be scary or whether it's supposed to be exciting or whatever it is that people like about horror. Like Rambo said, he never really found the movies scary per se, but he just enjoyed them for what they were, found a lot of fun from them. Other people are capable of being scared of those movies, and you can't argue which one is necessarily scarier, because that is more of a personal thing. But still, I think that it's a more universal thing, really, to be scared of something like Freddy, because he can represent a lot more things, whereas Jason kind of represents one thing. He's kind of pigeonholed. He's kind of limited. I just think the possibilities are a lot more. There's just a lot more possibilities when it comes to that. So yeah, Wes Craven. Unfortunately, we live in a world now where they're like calling. Who are they calling Master of Horror? I don't know.
Eli Roth.
Like Eli Roth and stuff like that. And people like us, we spit at that, but we know. But when you hear Master of Horror, but when you hear Master of Horror, Wes Craven, I don't think there's anybody here that argues against that. I think they all believe it. And I mean, yeah, I guess you can say, well, personally, I like The Last House on the Left more. Well, that's your personal thing, but The Last on the House on the Left was just sort of a stepping stone for him. It was a good movie. It was an important movie, but even that was derivative. It was just sort of that Igmar Bergman movie again, Rites of
Wasn't
Spring.
Sean S. Cunningham involved in that one? I know him and Craven worked together on a
Yeah.
film back then. at that
Yeah.
point.
No, there you go. But I mean, still, and
He
it's a
had
good
done
movie.
nothing.
But I just mean, but really, the one that stands out and I think defined his career the most, and that's why he made New Nightmare, which is such an interesting movie. It's not all it could have been. I think it could have been a lot better, but it was still executed mostly well.
I gotta go back to the Masters of Horror thing.
But,
man. The only
yeah.
person who's
Sorry.
on the same fucking level with Argento, Carpenter, Craven, Romero nowadays, even though there are a decent amount of talented film directors, is James Wan, and I hope he doesn't make any more fucking.
I like
I hope
James
he
Wan a
sticks to
lot,
the
but he's definitely
agree.
not on their level. Maybe
But
he can get there.
to-
But anyway, that's a different
quickly
thing.
jump-
Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
No,
No,
go
I
ahead.
mean, just to quickly jump on Cole's thing, he mentioned the director Wes Craven. Even if you look at, I think it's interesting when I look at the other directors of Elm Street films. I look at Chuck Russell. I looked at films he went on to do, like I love the Blob remake, Eraser, The Mask with Jim Carrey. I looked at Rennie Harlan. I know people make fun of him, but I love Cliffhanger. I love Die Hard 2. And
Die Hard 2.
Ford Fairlane.
Yeah,
Jack Shoulder.
Jack Shoulder, who would go on to do The Hidden. Stephen Predator 2. And of course, Wes Craven would come out with New Nightmare. I think it's just interesting that those directors, and that, I mean, the debate, I mean, I've been sort of having fun with the debate. In all reality, I love both series. I know the debate's over, so I'll be honest here. I love both franchises, but it's just interesting that the directors at Elm Street did go further with other movies when compared to the Friday the 13th franchise. And
I think part of that
it
had to
does
do
say,
with Paramount's disowning of the franchise, so they were pretty much blacklisted out of Hollywood and weren't allowed to make films anymore because they were attached to Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Well, let me turn let's turn the tables over
Yeah.
to the Friday the 13th team. You guys do your your closing statements, your closing arguments. Mike, we'll start with you.
Well, when it comes to horror franchises, especially slasher films of the 80s, Friday the 13th is king. They're the ones, without Friday, there wouldn't be Nightmare on Elm Street. And again, that is proven in Freddy versus Jason, because Freddy cannot do anything without Jason first killing people and giving him strength. So once again, he has to rely on Friday the 13th for success. Now,
I mean, both of them
Nightmare
was
on
the
Street
highest
film-
grossing film.
the first Nightmare on Elm Street film is a classic. Wes Craven, awesome. And I like both franchises too. Had a lot of fun in this debate, but I do enjoy both. But Friday was more visceral, whereas Nightmare was more, I don't know, fantasy. But you can enjoy both. I think there's room for both on the shelf. But for me, I would reach for Friday first, just because it's more of a quick, easy to watch thing. And like you said, with the Tommy saga isn't quite as important to the different films so much as the story arc in Nightmare. You come in on 4, you're like, what did I miss? Who are these guys that just got killed? Why are they important to the story? I don't think Nightmare really handled the transition well between the films, and I'm not a big fan of New Nightmare. I think it was an interesting concept, but I ultimately think it was a failure. I didn't like it. I thought it was kind of one of those, I'm smarter than you are, wink, wink type things, and it didn't work for me. But I like the original and 3, and the rest I can watch for a yuck. But to me, Friday is the ultimate slasher franchise, and the one that really gave birth to the rest of them. Sure, Halloween was the influential one, but if it wasn't for Friday the 13th, we wouldn't have had the 80s that we had.
Easy E.
I mean, honestly, I think Mike covered off on a lot of the points that I'd make. I mean, I think when you look back at the 80s, like slasher boom, Friday the 13th is at the top. It started it. It led the way. We've been giving a lot of love to Wes Craven's New Nightmare. And actually, by the way, I do like that movie. I actually like it rather a lot. But I don't know that Friday the 13th Part 6 doesn't get enough love and attention for kind of early aspects of like meta stuff that it did, that New Nightmare later continued, that ultimately Wes Craven perfected in like Scream. So, I mean, I think, again, while not, genre breaking or groundbreaking as some of those other efforts, I mean, I think kind of the prototype for that sort of thing was there. I think the concept of, what are you going to reach on the shelf for is important, because I just have fun watching the Friday the 13th movies. I think they're funny. While their characters are not as deep as the Nightmare characters, I don't think I would argue that point. It's sort of like I have a fun time being with them. Like, Shelley's a big doofus, but it's just kind of funny watching him like turn the tables on bikers, hit on that Vera chick. It's funny watching, young Tommy Jarvis, what's his face, Corey Feldman, messing around. I just kind of enjoy those entries. Like, I have a good time watching through them, and then I get a rush at the end. Like, I'll be honest, for my money, the kind of the final confrontation scene in Final Chapter, where like Trish is kind of facing off with Jason in the house, is probably one of my. It might be my favorite kind of like killer heroine confrontation in any horror movie, and I count that even like against some of the Halloween stuff. I don't know why. Like, I just the music, the action, kind of what the characters are doing, it just really gets to me. But I think the franchise as a whole is just kind of like a fun, good time. Someone made the comment about like hamburger versus steak. I like hamburgers. I think hamburgers are damn good. But again, being honest, like I do rather like the Nightmare films. I mean, for my money, like 1, 3. And New Nightmare are kind of like my go-tos. Like, if I'm going to sit down, like, I don't even watch part 2. Like, I'll watch 1, 3, and depending on my mood, maybe I'll watch like 4. But I'm not kidding. Like, I think I watched 5 when I got the Blu-ray set, and I was reminded why the hell. It's like I was reminded, like, well, why the hell did I do this? This is terrible.
Hey, we all bought the Halloween box set, and those got a few turds in it too. So.
Oh God! Like, don't get me started on Halloween Resurrection.
No, we didn't.
Like, it's awful.
Well, no horror series can cast stones. You know what I mean? They all live in glass houses. So.
Friday is like the NASCAR of horror.
You say steak versus hamburger, but who consumes more hamburgers than steak? I think pretty much everybody, right?
Yeah.
So which one is the one you reach for?
Yeah, which one would you rather have, though? That's what we're talking about.
I want to hear.
I love a good cheeseburger.
I want to hear.
Full of shit, Mike.
I want to hear Orc's closing statement for Friday the 13th. Orc, you have the floor. It's all yours.
Make it better than the meme joke.
Both great franchises. What did you say, Cameron?
I said make it better than the meme joke.
All right, here we go with the memes. Cameron, let's make this all professional. Fucking. All right, here we go. All right, Friday. I love both franchises, obviously. Tonight's been fun, but Friday the 13th, why I like it more than Nightmare on Elm Street is I think it has better kills and a shit ton more of them, better characters, way better leading ladies, even though Heather is awesome in Nightmare on Elm Street. And then what drew me to it as a kid, USA Up All Night and Monster Vision. And I'd go, okay, this is a good movie, watching most of it. And then what Eric said, the final chase scene, I'd say, okay, what's going to happen at the end of this movie? When I remember watching them for the first time, holy shit, what are they going to do? And then, like watching it all unfold. That's why I like Friday the 13th almost as much as Halloween. But yeah. And the slasher, yeah.
Well, let's turn it over. It's in the hands of Sausage Factory Nation, and I have to say, there's been some conspiracy from the Nightmare on Elm Street side that this is that it's unfair. However, from what I'm seeing, a lot of people voting for Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm seeing a lot of people saying that they love both series equally.
That's me. I'm the one saying that on there.
Probably.
It's Thunderdome. 2 series enters, 1 series wins.
Well, while we get in the last second votes, like I said, start spamming the chat. Go over to the live chat on the Sausage Factory Show website. Scroll down to the poll. Cast your vote. While we let everybody make their final votes, their final decisions, Orc, hit us with the first Orc's Corner of Season 5.
Our expectations are nice and low now, so.
Hey, cool. Fuck you.
Still
All right, boys. All right, here we go. All right. Are you guys ready for this shit?
Sure.
All right.
Let's do it.
I
Let's
love
get
the
it.
enthusiasm. Let's go. Going back in time, since today trick-or-treating is all pusserific and not dank at all, what were your guys' favorite memories of being a youngin', as they say here in the States, America, and trick-or-treating around, and what happened on some of your craziest nights? Now, if some of this is illegal, it's okay. You can leave some of it out. But, yeah, that's what Orcs Corner is for season 1, or season fucking 4, episode 1, I think. Ron? I don't know. Yeah. Piz, help me out, please.
This is season 5 work.
Season 5, episode 1.
It's okay. He was in a hospital during season 4.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Well, while we're thinking about this, Orc, while we're mulling this over in our mind, what's your personal favorite moment from trick-or-treating or Halloween?
During the probably 7th and 8th grade, during the end of middle school, I had some pretty fun times, you know. Getting back at kids who are assholes in school, you know, the big show-offs, I should say, with various items, you know, which I won't name, and just going and having like a backpack and probably just a huge shopping bag full of candy and probably trick-or-treating for like 7 hours, 6 hours, I don't know, staying out till like 12 or 1. Which is like unheard of now because it's like, oh my god, Amber Alert, they're not back by fucking 8:30, holy shit. And like,
It's even earlier where I live. Like they trick or treat from like
I remember like
6
going
to
out
8
It's
or
a time.
like
It's
5
like a
to
set
7 or
time
something.
now.
It's like 5 to 7 or something.
It's
Yeah,
over
well,
by
like,
dark.
back in the day, it was like you'd go
I
out
didn't
like
even go
pretty
out until
much
it was dark.
after school. Like you get home at like 2, 3, maybe 4 at the latest, and you'd stay out until at least I would like 11, 12, or 1.
You gotta have the right neighborhood for that.
Yeah.
That is true. Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, man. It's like a lot of places like don't even do trick or treating anymore. At least around me.
They make the kids go to the shopping center where I live, and they
They
That's
do
horse shit, man.
trunk or treat.
Oh,
Trunk
it's
or
such
treat.
horse shit.
Trunk
Have you
or
guys
treat.
ever heard of Beggar's Night? Like that's either the night before or the night after. That's in some places where there's like 2 nights where you can go out and trick or treat. There's Halloween, and then there's like an extra night, and because I think they do that in Buffalo.
Wow, that's the night when they get some paintballs in the face when they come to my place.
I have to say though that I was at work today and I got an email that went to everybody that worked there, and it said that we don't want to alarm you. But we want you to know that there has been a threat towards our workplace that we were going to be hit by creepy clowns today, but the police are investigating.
Oh my god.
Wait, was this year?
No, today.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
Wow.
that's so crazy. This clown thing's really jumping off, man. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Going
It's all
crazy.
insane clown posse. They're behind it, obviously. Juggalos.
Well, it's certainly not Rob Zombie in 31, that's for sure.
No. Anybody else favorite trick-or-treating stories or favorite Halloween night stories?
I don't really have anything that crazy. Just the basic. When
Yeah.
I got older, it was just watching movies, hanging out. Got a little bit older, it was getting really fucked up and doing the same thing. So
Yeah, I don't have
I
anything.
still kind of do that. So
I don't have anything specific, but I mean, people who watch the show know that Raiho and I grew up on the same street, and we had pretty awesome Halloween experience. It was a no exit street, and it was very close knit. So when we went out just on our street, there were not everybody, but a lot of the neighbors. They knew all the neighborhood kids, and we often got special bags of candy that they set aside just for us and stuff like that. And after we did trick or treating, I used to trick or treat from about 6 till 10 usually, and then around 10 o'clock in our street, one of the neighbors down the street would do fireworks, and we'd have sort of like a little party and shoot off fireworks and stuff. And just when I got a little older, I still, I only trick or treated until I was about 13, I think. So I mean, it's not like I outgrew that really. And then after that, yeah, it was just hanging out, watching movies and stuff like that. But I was lucky because I did go pretty far and get stuff. It's already changed so much as I've grown up, because like my neighborhood was like we used to get like probably more than 200 kids back when I was a kid. Now my parents, they'll report and tell me what they'll be like. Oh, we got maybe like 3 groups of kids all night. Like they don't get anybody. But I mean, back in like it was the heyday when I was a kid. Like kids used to get dropped off in cars at the
Yeah.
top of my street because they knew that my street was one of the good ones and
Yeah.
stuff. And I went well beyond my street into other places. Roamed all over the place.
I gotta say, I'm not
Sometimes.
giving you guys shit, but back when you guys were, younger and like around middle school that age, were you guys like basically it was trick or treat until you couldn't carry your bag or you couldn't walk anymore, and you'd go to like condominiums and just like everything, or is that just like a weird part where I grew up?
It didn't take long for me to load up on a lot of candy just because, like I said, I had very candy-rich neighborhoods, just starting with my own and then moving on. And I don't know, usually I would just stop sort of like, I had real endurance back then because I was often wearing costumes that really encumbered me.
Yeah.
And in case anybody needs to be reminded, it's funny. Today was super warm. You could have worn shorts out here today, which is, proof to me that climate change is pretty real because and I know this is the start of the month as opposed to the end of the month, but I'm just saying October is when it gets cold. And I mean, by the time the October ends, we had some frigid Halloweens, where like costumes got ruined because we had to wear like big coats over them and stuff.
Yeah.
And I did Halloween, sometimes in light snow, not a bunch, but I can remember at least 2 Halloweens with some snow. I remember Halloweens with very cold rain, so just some very, Halloween, it was always a very taxing. It was definitely hard on the stamina because I was walking around often encumbered by a costume. Maybe I couldn't see too well because of a mask or makeup and stuff like that. And it was usually brutally cold.
But when we were younger, it was Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Even though there's Halloween decorations out, it's Christmas in every store.
Oh yeah.
And it drives me nuts. I can't even enjoy October without thinking about Christmas. It's ridiculous.
Well, so much has changed. I mean, you talked about around here in some areas they won't even do trick or treat on Halloween night. They'll do it like the night before.
Yeah.
And literally, they're doing it. It's still daylight when they do it. They only let them do it for like 2 hours, and they promote and recommend people do this trunk or treat crap. Which you go to like a church parking lot and you just go from different people's trunks and get candy. My God, that's ridiculous.
And the best stories were the next day in school, hearing what happened to all the kids who were trick-or-treating. Not only the shit they got into, but it was like, this one old lady was going to invite us in for beer. This is like 7th grade. And they're like, no, we said no, and we just walked away.
Or the high schoolers stole our candy,
I've just missed out on a situation like that. Like one year when I was like 12, and one of my last years, I was trick-or-treating with people. Like I used to go with my sister, but she was instead of with some of my friends on the street, but she was 3 years older than me, so she stopped a lot earlier. So then by the time I was like 12, I was trick-or-treating with some people that from school that I didn't normally trick-or-treat, like they weren't from my street, and I was with them. And I was only with them for a little while because I had to come back. My parents told me I had to come back. And like pretty much like 10 minutes after I left them, they got like attacked by a bunch of older kids and like fought them off. And they were super pumped and proud about it. And it would have been a good story for me, but I wasn't there. I missed out.
And another thing that I hate about the whole Halloween thing at the moment is, we don't even get like horror films in October anymore. They come out in August.
I hate that so much.
January, February.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Like kids these days don't even have to walk. Like I don't know if you guys see this. They like their parents like drive really slowly and they go hop in the car and they drive like to the next house. Like, Jesus Christ, how lazy are you?
And in full
We're not
day.
talking about it's like a normal ass neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
And it's not even
suburb.
dark.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy now. That feels so bad. Like as soon as it gets dark, everybody has to go home. Like I didn't even go out until it got dark.
Yeah,
That was the point.
Same here. Exactly.
Yeah, that was the point.
I mean,
so you can see the
original
lanterns all lit up and stuff.
In the original Halloween, Jamie Lee Curtis, sees the little kids starting to go trick or treating in the daytime, but it's not the parties. The stuff doesn't happen until like the nighttime. That's when Ben Tramer gets hit by an ambulance and explodes. So.
I know what the hell's wrong with those cops. They don't see him walking right across the street, and they just slam him. I mean, Jesus.
What about you? Mike?
I mean, they
Rambo?
die too. They're so bad. They die in the crash.
Any memories from Halloween's past, trick or treating, or any shenanigans you got into?
Go ahead, Rambo.
No, I don't. I don't even remember trick or treating, to be honest. So no stories. Lived on a farm in the middle of nowhere, so there was really no trick or treating. Just stay at home, watch movies. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
Nice.
We always decorated our yard crazy for Halloween. Live next to a cornfield, so we go get a bunch of corn stalks and make things out of it and put a dummy out there with an axe in its head. And because my birthday's in October, so it was a really fun month for me anyway. And sometimes my parents would take me to. We lived in a really small town, so they would take me over to a larger town and go trick or treating. And then when I got older, the school had activities for older kids, and it was mainly the little kids that went around trick or treating. So we'd go to the high school party. And then later on, the JCs would have haunted houses in town. So we'd spend Halloween at the haunted house and hang out and drink and goof off. And I had a lot of fun on Halloween when I was a kid.
I don't know about you guys, but I live in the Bible Belt, and probably about 10 years ago, everything got like really religious. Like instead of trick or treating, everybody would take their kids to church.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they would do it there.
And they call it the Fall Festival.
Well, they do.
Exactly.
Around here they do that, and they call it. I forget what they call it, but they dress the kids as like Bible characters.
Yeah.
And they
Oh, jeez.
they do like.
Oh my God.
They go to church and they give them candy.
I don't know why so many people think Halloween is like anti-Bible or anti-Christianity. Like,
I'm
there's
gonna be
nothing in the
Joseph this
Bible
year.
that like talks about costumes.
Sam Hain is an evil spirit.
What I
Yeah,
was
but
going to
that's
say
like
is,
Celtic stuff. I mean, what's that got to do with the Bible?
Oh,
Nothing.
yeah. All Hallows Eve.
Yeah.
But like I've noticed, like recently, the past few years, it seems like it's going back the other direction. People are starting to get out and dress up more and get away from that crap, because that drives me crazy, man.
That's good.
Yeah, I don't get
like
it.
what you like, but the South is interesting. And I was referring to New York when I was younger, upstate New York. But yeah,
Swag.
Yeah.
YOLO. Yeah.
Well, let's see. Let's go ahead and let's call this thing, and I think we can go ahead and say that the winner of the great debate was the movie Slugs. Slugs was the great
That's
debate.
awesome, man. What is that, Arrow release?
This is the Arrow Slugs release, and it is absolutely glorious. Glorious. But okay, let's go. Let's be serious here. Let's check it out. Let's look at the poll on the website. If I can pull it up here. According to the poll on the website, with 65% of the votes, Friday the 13th has won the great debate. Let me look in the chat.
Rigged.
Let me look in the chat.
Rigged.
There are quite a few people in the chat.
Poll. This was an actual poll.
There
I
are
know,
a lot of
even
people in
worse.
the chat that
There's a lot of
are
good people
saying,
voting.
This was about something serious.
So you're
It's
trying to
time
say
to
that
make horror
they
good
interviewed
again.
more Friday the 13th fans than Nightmare fans, and that way it was rigged?
Cola's Gay voted Nightmare. Cola's Gay
yeah,
voted
right.
Nightmare.
Well, yeah.
I'm looking through the chat here. Hold on. Holiday Styles votes Nightmare on Elm Street. So there's a lot of
Oh, we
Nightmare on Elm
win.
Street fans out there.
Nightmare wins.
I know. The intelligent people on our side.
65% to
That's all that matters.
35%. Loser.
We don't like the
I do-
results.
there
so
are-
the people who voted the other way must
Well,
be dumb. Of
But
course.
see, listen, a lot of people are saying
I'm not
that
saying they're
Mike
dumb.
made
I'm
a
saying the other
very.
people on our side were smart.
A lot of people are saying Mike made very compelling arguments.
He's the professor, man.
The reason why you guys got 35% was because of the first film.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right, Mike,
The
settle
reason you
down.
guys got
So-
65%.
You see Mike's bald fucking head. The amount of knowledge that's fucking around there is just insane.
No, it was a lot of fun.
So let's go ahead. Let's call it, according to Sausage Factory Nation, Friday the 13th has won the great debate. Now, I personally want to thank all of you guys. The amount of enthusiasm that you guys showed for this debate was absolutely phenomenal, especially considering the fact that I know a lot of you guys, like myself, love both series. So it wasn't an easy task.
I don't anymore.
Huh.
I'm gonna burn
So
on my Friday the 13th stuff.
it's not an easy
Me
task
too.
to either. It wasn't an easy task. Just leave it that way. Either to anyway. You guys did a fantastic job. You guys are awesome. The amount of enthusiasm. It was a really good debate. It was a lot of fun. And so I just want to thank everybody here on the panel. That was a lot of fun. I think you all did an excellent job. And yeah, great debate. I want to thank everybody who tuned in. I want to thank everybody who voted. The chat was absolutely popping tonight. The chat, actually, we have a live chat on the YouTube video now. It's not like how it was in the previous years. We have a live scrolling chat on the YouTube video, and it was blowing up all night. So big thanks to everybody who tuned in. Big thanks to everybody who voted. We really appreciate it. And that's it. The official word, Sausage Factory Nation believes Friday the 13th is the better series, but
I had
not
faith
by
in the
that
nation.
much of a margin.
I knew they'd know.
Well, we hope everybody out there is having a great October. Again, to all of our friends in Florida, be safe, Godspeed. A big shout out to our buddy Raiho, who congratulations to him. He is a father for the second time. And yeah, thanks a lot for tuning in. And we'll see you guys next Thursday live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Sausage Factory YouTube channel. If you've not subscribed to the channel, do so. If you're not following us on social media, those links are in the description. You should do so. So until next week, you guys have a great week. Stay safe. And
Bye-bye.
Rick.
Rick.
Sore loser.
Peace.
Bye.
Faggot.
Salty.
They're
Slugs.
winking at the end of the debate.
slugs.
Salty
Slugs.
tears.